Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WODcast podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Ifft. If I'm being a little quiet and low energy in this introduction, it's because I'm recording right here in my house while my children and my wife are sleeping. I'm about to build a brand new big studio. We don't know what we're going to do. If we're going to get a Airstream or build outside the house a shed type studio, or if I'm going to get an office, but I got to get out of here. So the plans were in the works. If you're new to the show, welcome. This is the WODcast podcast where we talk about everything from strength, conditioning, fitness, health, nutrition. That can be anything that involves health, like from breathing to sleep to all kinds of sports, athleticism. We run the gamut here, and I bring on really, really interesting guests. I, for a profession, am a stand-up comedian. I take my health and fitness very seriously, as I just ate 85% chocolate and some cashew nuts. Maybe not the best thing in the world. But I worked out today at Malibu CrossFit under the tutelage of Mike Anderson and his great staff there. They had me doing split jerks today. Whew. That's not what's hurting me. Yesterday, I did a whole bunch of front squats, and ooh, am I sore. And thank God I've got my CBDMD freeze because I put this all over my legs and feels really good. Check that out. Check out CBDMD. Their products are absolutely amazing when it comes to the top of the line CBD products. But I wanted to talk to you about the show, what's going on. Today, our guest was, like I said, I am a stand-up comedian. I am always on tour. If you want to see me live this week, I'm in Chicago. If I make it there through the snowstorm, I will be the 17th and 18th at Zanies in Rosemont. The 19th, I'll be at downtown Chicago, Zanies. Great club, one of my favorite clubs. It's just an awesome club to watch stand-up comedy, to perform stand-up comedy. I love going there. I'll have these awesome hats for sale when I'm there after the show if you want to get some merch. And then on Sunday night, I'm in Milwaukee at the Improv. All those tickets are actually selling well throughout the snow, except for Milwaukee. What's going on, Milwaukee? I know it's a Sunday night, but come out and see me. Next week, Boston. Could be all sold out already. Boston, Laugh Boston, that's Friday and Saturday night. That's one show Friday, two shows Saturday. They might possibly add a second show Friday because the tickets are selling. After that, I'm going to Costa Rica. I'm going surfing, bitches. And then I come back. I'm at the Ventura Comedy Club right around the corner. It's a nice little, I drive a little bit, half hour from home and get to do that one. That's why I'm doing it. Ventura Comedy Club. And then I'll be in Las Vegas at the, where am I? The Comedy Cellar at the Rio. I love that place. And then I got a whole bunch of dates in April. Come see me. Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I don't know if those dates are up yet on my site on eddieifft.com. But Vail, Colorado. Steamboat's the 8th and 9th of April. Vail's the 13th and 14th. Denver Improv is the 15th and 16th. And then the St. Louis Funny Bone is on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of April. May, I'll be back in Vegas at the Comedy Cellar. And then Rooster T. Feathers on the 19th, 20th, 21st. And then the 25th of May, San Francisco, I will be at Cobb's Comedy Club. That is a huge venue. That's like 500 seats. I need you to start buying your tickets to Wednesday night. Let's sell this fucker out. I'll retire after that. If you guys come out, I'll retire. The 26th, I'll be in Seattle at Crocodiles. That's, I guess, Kurt Cobain used to play there all the time. It's a really cool rock club that they're turning into like a comedy venue. So check out all those dates. They're all at eddieifft.com. My tour, you can check out everything on Instagram at Eddie Ifft. My TikTok is off the hook right now. Oh my God. I didn't even want to get on TikTok. And the next thing you know, I'm getting like 500,000 views on all my videos. So WODcasters, where are you? You don't go to my YouTube. you don't go to my Instagram. The podcast is killing it. You guys don't view me. I don't know why. Hopefully you all follow me at Eddie Ifft on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, any of that stuff. But if you like the show, I need your support. We've got a Patreon, and the Patreon is a donation. It's $5 a month. That's it. $5 a month. And if you donate, you've got a good chance that you will, very good chance, that you will win a Maya Pucks and a leopard paw. You're like, what are those? Go check them out on Rogue Fitness. Maya Pucks is an electronic muscle stimulator, and a leopard paw is a multi-tool, kind of like a Graston, kind of like a Schwagwa. I love to say that. So the one, basically the muscle stimulator, pumps your muscles to bring blood flow, to expedite or expedite. I don't know which one to say. Expedite. I don't know. It's like tomato. But it basically heals you a lot quicker. I live by these things. Whenever I'm injured, or not even just injured, but when I've got soreness, I turn it on the tens mode. It's great stuff. Between that and a Theragun, it's all you need these days. Like, why go through rolling out and doing all that shit with lacrosse balls? And it's all you need, guys. Like, don't do that work. Let someone else do the work for you. So get yourself a Maya Pucks and a leopard paw. A leopard paw does the. It's good to get in there and get out all those little adhesions in your fascia, if you know what I'm talking about. Now I want to talk about our winner for the Patreon. Every week we give a Maya Pucks and a leopard paw out. Last week I believe it was Matt Garcia. Matt, I got your email. I will forward it on to Troy over there, and Troy will take care of you. Matt Garcia, you messaged me a couple times. Don't worry, dude. It's coming. It's coming. Let's see. Who is the donor? Who is our Patreon? Oh, gosh. I cannot find the one that I had picked out. There it is. Matthew Hussey. You are our Patreon winner. And all you got to do, send us a message, an email at WODcastpodcast@yahoo.com. We will forward it on to Troy. We are backed up a little bit. We're about backed up by 5, I think. So Aaron Jepson, John Ware, Stephen Rigby. There's a bunch of you have not gotten them. They will be coming. You know what's going on with all this shipping shit. So I will get those out to you ASAP. Well, Troy takes care of it over there at the it's pretty simple what he does, but Troy, who's been a big supporter of the show, really takes care of us in many more ways than just sponsoring the show. He helps me with guests, he gives me ideas, he's a friend. Awesome. There have been so many people that have supported the show in so many ways. So if you don't win a Maya Pucks or a leopard paw, go to Rogue Fitness and buy one yourself. You can find them on Amazon. There's all different kinds of places. But today's an interesting guest. I want to talk about today's guest because he's interesting because he found me rather than me finding him. I was unaware of our guest because I'm not in the traps anymore. When it comes to stand-up comedy, I'm not really around the clubs. I'm out on the road so much that I only see a few comics that might work with me on the road if they're opening at the club. And I used to always be in the thick of it and see all the up-and-coming comics in the clubs, and I don't get to do that. And I regret that because there's so many funny guys out there. But this one reached out to me because it turns out he's a former L1 certified CrossFit coach. Yes, so not only is he a funny fucker, he's a fit fucker. So he's a funny fit fucker. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk to him about CrossFit and comedy. And, you know, I didn't know many people like me, but Ben Herwitz is who you need to check him out. On Instagram, he's Ben Herwitz Comedian. That's BenHerwitz comedian. Funny guy. Interesting story. Back in, you know, his days as an athlete, college athlete, went on to get involved in CrossFit at an early age, and then transferred all over to comedy. So we talked to Ben, and I had a fun conversation. It went on forever because we did talk a lot of comedy. So people did come on here just for fitness. Sorry, you're not going to like this one. We do talk a lot of comedy, but we do talk fitness too. So check it out. Enjoy the show. If you guys have any comments, criticisms, there's so many places to get a hold of me, but mostly Instagram. It's the one at Eddie Ifft, EDDIEIFFT. Hope you guys are having a good year. Hope you're staying fit. Hope you're staying happy, healthy, avoiding COVID, and that's it. Let's get this show started. Ben, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been doing my homework. I listened to the Rob Wolf podcast.
Yeah,
that you did with him. I used to listen to his when I was like 18 years old. I used to listen to his podcast, his original podcast.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous of people like you that caught on to health at such a young age. Like when
I mean, I was a weirdo. It's you shouldn't be jealous. I was like a 14-year-old obsessed with nutrition.
No, I meet kids like that all the time now. When I was 14, or 16, as soon as I got my license, I would wait till my parents went to sleep and then take the car and drive down to Burger King and get 2 double Whoppers. Like, it was how much gross food can I put in my body? And,
right.
And I'm wondering at what point, and I think it's hilarious that we're like, why do we have all these health problems? And it's like, well, we grew up on the worst, most horrible food in the world. So,
well, and they're marketing it like it's fun to be just a piece of shit, basically, to be obese.
What used to be, you'd see comedians, it was almost like funny. You know, you're a cartoon character as a comedian. So it was like, how bad can you eat? How much can you drink? And how much drugs can you do? And that makes, like, everybody wanted to be John Belushi.
Yes. Well, and I'm self-conscious about it now, and I've heard you talk about it a little bit, like how it's become more socially acceptable to be health conscious and to be aware of your health.
Yeah,
which it is.
as a
comic.
I just think so many people died that everybody got scared.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm still self-conscious about being like too open about what I'm doing health-wise, because it's like, there's nothing less cool than like really caring about how healthy you are. And right?
Yeah, but I think that stigma is going away. I think people like Rogan and Rogan helped that because, you know, forever there was like Joe Piscopo and Carrot Top. And everybody, every time I would like start to get a little bit of traps from doing like too many like snatches or shrugs.
Yeah.
People would start saying to me, "Hey man, you're getting a little Piscopo up there." And I felt it. I'm like, oh, I probably am not funny. You know, like maybe girls, maybe find you a little more attractive, but dudes are going, what the fuck, dude? You know, like you're supposed to be funny. I don't need you being all like beefcake up there, you know, like, and I found it funny when I saw like an Italian guy up there that was like, you know, stereotypical Italian who was big and buff and wore tight shirts. And he's like, yo, so I'm like down at the gym and I'm looking at this girl, and that would be his bit. Hilarious. And a lot of black comics could pull it off.
Yep.
They just all were in good shape, and they like their form of entertainment. I always felt like black audiences and black culture appreciated entertainment way more than white audiences. Like when I'd go to a white club, people were like drinking, throwing up in the, you know, aisles. And you go to a black show and because I started in doing all black shows because of my manager. It was a weird situation, but they're like paid for their tickets and went out, and it was a night out on the town, and they appreciated it. And if you didn't do good, you were dead because they paid for that ticket. They wanted you to do well, and you should be an entertainer. So like someone like, excuse me, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
He could sing. He was in shape. He looked good. He dressed well. He was funny. So that's what they wanted. They wanted the whole package. They didn't want like John Belushi, like a guy rolling around on stage.
It's true. It's true. But if you do like sort of a self-deprecative kind of comedy, and you're jacked, or if people know that you just ate some like raw beef liver or something, I think that's detracting a little from the stand-up potentially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mean I didn't start out this way. I don't know how I started, but I'm a bit of a purist in comedy. Like I just love the words.
Same here. I mean, that's why I like it. You know, I'm not planning on singing and dancing. You know
well, like
I mean?
I don't have to see a band. I can just listen to their song and love it.
Right.
It's the same with comedy. I can just listen to it on Sirius satellite radio and go, that's a funny bit. I really like that. And I don't need to see the guy, know what he looks like, anything like that. I go, that's just good. And so I used to think, it was funny, I used to say when a comic would like overly perform and act a joke that they would cook it, they would Dane Cook it. Like, the joke wasn't that funny, so they put this performance element into it because it wasn't that funny. And I used to watch Chris Rock read off a legal pad. And the jokes were so good. And I was like, that's what I want to be. I want to be that I could read the joke and then it's fun. And then add, like Chris does, when he does his special, he adds the whole performance element to it. So,
or he's doing a bigger venue. You have to perform it a little. There's tons of people there.
But again, there's like, what's his name? He was in Breaking Bad, LeVar.
I don't know his last name, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
The big black dude with the pointy little head.
Yeah.
He walks on stage and I start laughing.
Yeah.
I just start laughing. He doesn't even need to talk. And I'm giggling. So I'm jealous of those guys. I wish I was funny, like that people would look at me. Maybe they do, but I'm so jealous of that. But as far as fitness goes, you know, I remember like when I'd be in shape, which I'm not right now, I'd go on stage in England and girls would like, woo. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to get laid. And that's what a man wants. But at the same time, I was thinking, I'm not fucking funny. You know, like, what am I doing? Why was I writing jokes yesterday instead of, doing curls? So, there's always been that. So when I found there's a few comedians that are in shape and like super good shape. The guy that started me, Kenny Kane, was that I started this podcast with, is one of the fittest fuckers I know in the world. He was stand up for years.
And he's a comic? I don't know Kenny Kane.
Was for years. He does. Okay. He's too into. He owns a gym now. He's got like a big thing going on, and he doesn't have the time for this anymore. Where'd you start? Stand up? Yeah.
I started here. I moved down to LA. I'm from San Francisco originally.
Okay. And and what was your box where you were coaching?
It was CrossFit Marin. That was when I was 18 years old. I was like 18, 19 years old.
They let you get your L1 cert?
Yeah. As an 18-year-old, they let me get it. I rowed in college for a year. I was on a Trinity College rowing team in Hartford, Connecticut.
Wow. You went all the way across the country.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the best teams in the country.
Okay.
And I was excited to do it. I rowed in college for a couple of years, and in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. It's a silly sport. I mean,
I same thing. I did track, and two people came to my meets.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I like beating the crap out of myself, and that's what it was. That's literally what the sport is.
Yeah.
You're just trying to vomit That's the whole sport.
Yeah, that seems like it.
Yeah.
My buddy Hunter McIntyre is right now making an attempt. He's always got a new project, and he wants to make the Olympics in sprint kayaking. And he's never been in one before, but he
could probably do it. I mean, you watch the Winter Olympics, half of these people didn't start until like a few years ago.
Yeah, well,
I mean, obscure.
Yeah, that's what people always say, look at this guy's an Olympian. I'm like, how many guys in your high school were on the skeleton team?
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Where were they competing?
You're like a backup Division I linebacker, and you can be in a bobsled, no problem.
Yeah, well, no, I've looked at that. That's super competitive. Because
okay, bobsled's more competitive.
So competitive. Because what they do is and there's a bunch of CrossFitters that do it. Tia Claire Toomey, who's one of is the best female CrossFitter of all time. James Newberry for Australia. They basically take these guys that are so fast, so like top American sprinters, and they're like, you can be in the back. I mean, you have to be top. Like, I mean, I ran Division I, and I wasn't even close to good enough to get near the bobsled. And funny enough, if I years ago before they started, I mean, like Herschel Walker and these guys all tried out. I would have loved to have. I'd love to be the guy in the back just hanging on, screaming for. I watched James Newberry, who's been, I think, as far as 4th in the CrossFit Games. I've watched James do like training for the Australian team, and it looks so scary and so awesome. But like, I watched this guy in this Olympics who was in for America Samoa or something. He made the Olympics in summer and winter. So he's skeleton in winter. He didn't do very well. And summer, he was in the 100-meter dash, and they're like, I think they said something like he didn't make the semifinals or he didn't get out of the prelims, and he ran an 11.2. And I'm like, 11.2? That was like me in practice.
Right.
And I'm like, how'd this guy, and I start reading his whole background. They're like, oh, he was a star at Princeton. And I'm like, Princeton? Wow. And then I look at his times at Princeton. I'm like, wow, Ivy League really sucks at track. You know, like these guys are terrible. But you know, that's what Hunter's doing. Hunter's picked an obscure sport. They won't let him in. They're trying to like block him because it was the same way he got into the CrossFit Games, because he's a phenomenal athlete with, you know, incredible VO2 and strength and stamina. And it's the kind of sport, I don't know, it's probably a highly technical sport that he doesn't know, you know, that these guys are going to be.
I'm sure. And it's also dangerous.
Well, no, it's sprint kayaking. It's on flat water.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the skeleton. Yeah, sprint kayaking. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like a club. Maybe they just don't want anybody in their club.
That's what I think a lot of this shit is.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Somebody, you know, write me on Instagram and tell me I'm wrong, but it looks like you're doing, what's that, Samson Stretch, where, you know, like your hip flexor stretch.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly. You're kneeling.
You're kneeling and you only paddle one side.
Well, yeah, also, like, doesn't that look like it would just ruin your body?
It looks horrible, but, you know, Hunter already has destroyed his body. But I think I made a deal with him. I would help him get in. Like they're not letting him in. Nobody's giving him advice. Nobody's telling him. They're not welcoming. And I was like, I will get you in, Hunter, if you promise. You have to promise, and he made this promise, that I get to go to the Paris Olympics with you if you qualify. And I am your coach. And I go, I will do no coaching, but I will be there in my coaching outfit, telling everybody I am an Olympic coach.
I mean, how long has that sport been around?
I don't know, but like no Americans made it in like, you know, it's one of those things where we don't even qualify because we suck so bad at it.
Right.
Some girl won it like last Olympics from America.
I think I saw that.
Like a 17-year-old girl.
But I had that exact same thought while watching. I was like, it's like sprinting on one leg.
Yeah.
How could you sustain that and not just?
Well, I don't know why they don't go in circles, just rowing on one side.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like Is there something in the water keeping them straight?
It does have a rudder. But I don't think they direct the rudder at all. I don't think it's like in crew you don't direct the rudder, do you?
No, there's a little guy. There's a coxswain.
Coxswain. What a great name.
The little coxswain. He's like 5 feet tall. He weighs about 120 pounds, and he is pulling on rudders.
Oh, I didn't know I thought he just yells at you guys.
Yeah. And he definitely yells, but he's also directing the boat. And in college rowing, there's 4 people on each side. So there's 4 starboard rowers, 4 rowers on the other side, and everybody's pulling hard on one side, and he'll say pull harder if it's slightly off, but he also is directing.
So what does he do? Does he check like a mark behind you and try to stay on the mark behind you? Because
as far as I know, yeah. They're looking straight behind all of the rowers, and they're facing the rowers while they're directing the boat.
Right, because like my thing with that is, how can he steer you? He doesn't see which way you're going. You know, he's got his back.
Right. No, he's looking the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And again, I don't totally understand what he was doing. I was just pulling like a lunatic. I didn't even know what was going on.
So you were in what, a 4-man team or an 8-man?
I was in an 8-man boat. And again, it was fun to compete. We competed against all those Ivy League schools. That's like the only sport that the Ivy League schools are good at,
right?
Is rowing. We went to Yale and we went to Harvard and Dartmouth and all these schools and did pretty well. I was the shortest guy in the boat by far.
Did you have a certain seat in the boat?
Yeah. I sat. I was the second from the front. I wasn't the lead rower. It's been so long. I don't even fucking remember any of the terms. But I was the second. I was the first starboard rower, and I was the second rower in the boat. Is
there an order, like the best guys in the back and the second best guys?
Rowers are. I mean, they're not. They're like cyclists. They're not good athletes. They're just good at destroying themselves.
Yeah.
They're like
mental toughness.
They're like 6'8", and they could never play basketball if their life depended on it.
Right.
These guys. So those guys are in the middle, the really big guys. And then the smaller guy, I'm about 6'2". I was by far the smallest guy on the boat, and I was towards the front.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that, like they couldn't play basketball. We've always talked about that there's like a pecking order of sports. Like
yes.
When you get to high school, depending on your athleticism, where you go, you know, like the winter or fall, winter, spring, you've got football, basketball, baseball. And then underneath there are like, you know, in America, soccer. Underneath basketball is like volleyball or hockey or, and then baseball, underneath baseball's track. And so you go to these other tiers, but it's like, if you're smart and you're a great athlete, go to one of those bottom tier sports and just destroy everybody.
Absolutely.
Because the Charlie Wards are in basketball, baseball, and football.
Yeah. It's hard to, I wasn't planning on being Bo Jackson. So I played a sport. Well, and also I did the conventional sports and I did okay, but I knew I wasn't going to get a scholarship. So I decided halfway through high school to do rowing. Yeah.
Same thing happened to me. I just knew the writing was on the walls, and I had a football coach pull me aside and say, just quit. Like, he was like, you're just going to get hurt and you've got a chance of a scholarship. And why would you do this to yourself? Right. And I was like, but I want to. And he's like, you're not going to be. Like, it's not going to happen. So thank God for him, because otherwise I'd be at some Division III school, you know, probably doing steroids and, you know, graduating with a degree and like, yeah, I don't even want to make a joke about it. So where do you guys row in Marin? Like, where was
I rowing when I?
Well, so I've been to Marin many times. Played the Throckmorton Theater.
Okay. Well, I went to St. Ignatius High School, so that's in San Francisco.
Okay. Oh, in the city.
Yeah, in the city.
Okay, so where would you guys practice?
We Lake Merced. It's like south of the city. It's almost in Daly City by the airport.
I think I know it. Yeah.
If you know the city, it's pretty much as far south from the city as you can get. It's still technically in the city.
And is rowing a big sport up there?
No. Oh, well, the thing is, rowing is not a big sport in America, really.
Right.
You've gone overseas. It's much bigger in England.
See, I grew up on the East Coast, and
Okay. And it's big on the East Coast, of course.
And I was a ocean lifeguard where we rode Van Dyne boats. And I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're like fiberglass lifeguard boats. And it's two oars. You make your own footboard. You put plexiglass down on your seat. Like the boats for rescuing are just these simple fiberglass boats that we would row out. And the truth is we never made a rescue with them. We didn't even know how to pull people into the boat. It was so hard because you'd probably flip it over. I have no idea why they exist. And there's a company called Van Dyne that makes them, and they're all up and down like the Jersey Shore. And you'll see them in big lifeguard competitions. They have different kinds. Some have holes in them to let the water through them. But it's a big deal. It's a whole culture. And you want to be a good rower. Like everybody on the patrol wants to be a good rower. And so when the competitions come around, guys make footboards out of like fire hose, and they screw it down to like plywood, and then bolt it in or vice grip it into the boat, to the fiberglass seat. And then we take plexiglass boards and put them on the seat with like foam on the side to keep you in, and put Vaseline all over the plexiglass so you could slide and wear like spandex.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was like you had a seat that went like with the wheels, and so that you could get even farther up and then push back farther. So guys take it really, really seriously. And I was, like average at best. But we had guys that rode for Penn and Tufts and, all these. And when we'd go to the competitions, all the other guys. So I was a runner. I would go to the competitions and I would see guys from Villanova and Georgetown, all the guys I ran against in the Big East. And, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to crush everybody. And then I'd get to the lifeguard competition. I'd be like, oh, fuck. These are the guys that beat me at that college meet. Now I got to run them again on the beach. And it was the same thing with the rowers. We'd have like national champions on our beach patrol that would come down for the summer and practice rowing. And they'd get to do it in a fun way. But then the waves were involved. Waves were a huge part of it.
Yeah, I bet.
Huge, because like the way out's all muscle, the way in is all, catching a swell and then directing it. Like one guy, once you catch a wave, one guy jumps out of the seat, goes to the back of the boat and takes one of his oars. He throws one oar in the boat, takes the other oar and uses it as a rudder to try to get it in. It's fun to watch. And I think the race is about 1.5 miles long for the doubles. But it was really fun. I just went back to an alumni, like Beach Patrol alumni reunion, and we had races. And I entered the run, the swim, and and I wasn't like I was just like, fuck you guys. I'm better. I'm in better shape than all you old fuckers. And in the row, I was in a doubles with a buddy, and I said, look, if we're not going to win this, let's just ruin the race. So around the bend, we just started running into everybody and just plowing everybody out of the way. And they were like, you just they took it so seriously. They're like, you just ruined. I was like, your chance of winning the 35-year reunion. I don't know what it was, but all right, guys, I forgot to mention that this podcast is brought to you by my new favorite apparel in the world, Barbell Apparel. And when I say that, I mean it sincerely. I am probably disgusting my wife. I'm going to probably have to buy like 5 more pairs because I live in them. I'm wearing them right now. Look at this. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing some Barbell Apparel joggers. I can't get out of them. I love them so much. They're so soft. They're so comfortable. I worked out in a pair today, and I came home and showered, and I just put another pair right on. And I wear them to walk the dogs. I wear them to drive the kids to school. I wear them to work out. I live in my Barbell Apparel joggers. The only time I take them off is when I have to go somewhere that I have to wear pants, and then I put on Barbell Apparel jeans, and that's true. I looked at the jeans when they first came. They looked just like jeans, but I was like, I'm not wearing some company named Barbell Apparel. I'm not going to wear their jeans. And my wife goes, just try them on. I put them on, And she goes, wow, those fit really good. And my wife is a fashion stylist. She's like, wow, those fit you better than any jean you've ever had on. Huh, funny. Because I like to say, you know, I work out a little bit. I might have a little bit of muscle in my legs. So guess what? These fit perfectly. And, but I was, you know, I wasn't sold right away as I put them on. And my wife was like, you know, getting all hot and heavy over how good I looked in them. But what happened then is I just like bent over and did a squat and was like, wow, these might be the most comfortable jeans I've ever worn. Yes, they were. Not only are they the most comfortable jeans, they're almost like my joggers that I wear from Barbell Apparel. They are having a big sale, I believe, on the jeans. You get $50 off. The jeans are usually like, I think they are, here they are. The sale that's going on is, yeah, here it is. Limited time, you can get their jeans, chinos, or anything pants for $99. That's $50 below normal. So go to barbellapparel.com/WODcast and check out all their apparel. They're going to give you 10% off for any purchase if you go to barbellapparel.com/WODcast. That's barbellapparel.com/WODcast. I also want to mention they've got shirts and stuff. I wore one of their shirts as my base layer when I went skiing because I needed something that would like wick the sweat off me, because you get really, if you keep sweat on you, you start to get really cold. And I wear a lot of like expensive ski gear, and I decided to wear this instead of that because I'm so happy with their stuff. So check them out, barbellapparel.com/WODcast. Do yourself some favor. Get the short shorts. I wear those a lot too now. They've got like those Navy SEAL short shorts. All their shorts are great, but I highly, highly recommend the jeans and the joggers. I just can't. I swear by them. So check them out. barbellapparel.com/WODcast. But Trinity, how good were you guys in Ivy League?
I mean, we were good. We're not technically in the Ivy League, but we won the head of the Dartmouth Green Monster race when I was a freshman. We rode at Yale. I rode at Penn. I'm not sure if it was with them, but I remember rowing on the Schuylkill.
Yeah, that's the school. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Where all the boathouses are.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. We rode at Princeton. We rode everywhere and did reasonably well. But we did win in the fall. They have these long races with turns. That aren't just straight ahead sprints. They're like 5-mile races.
Ugh.
Brutal. Really, really difficult. And it gets narrow and it can get kind of dangerous at certain points if you're next to another boat. But we won that my freshman year, which was kind of a big deal at Dartmouth. And all the big schools went there.
Did you train a lot on a C2?
Yeah, well, the thing is, they try to train as little as humanly possible on those things. And that's an advantage that West Coast teams have that East Coast teams don't. In the winter, you have to train on a C2 and they actually make like fake boats indoors as well. So they'll have you sit on a seat and pull basically in a pool, in like an indoor pool. You're pulling stationary water.
Wow.
Which is extremely boring. It's like all the worst aspects of a sport like that. It's awful. But we also would do like time trials on a C2, of course.
My high school had a rowing team. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and there's rivers, and they started a crew team. And I remember thinking, it'd be fun to do once. Like, I don't want to do that every day. There's just not enough. Like, this is not enough. I mean, you could argue me jumping over hurdles.
No, I get it. It's probably a little bit less engaging than doing the hurdles.
Yeah. And you get into the competition mind. And are you a monster on a C2 then?
I'm pretty good. I'm not. I mean, like compared to people who don't know how to row, I'm amazing.
Yeah.
But like compared to like those 6'8" guys, they'll destroy me on it.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Yes, it's mostly about size, and if you're just willing to push yourself, or if you have a reasonable amount of fitness, your times will be like freakishly low. Like what's your split for a 500? Do you know off the top of your head, or do you have like
I don't. I used to be decent because but I'm decent. The shorter it is, I'm a sprinter. It has to be the shortest race possible. Anything over a 500, I'm a dead man.
Well, let's say I bet that you'd probably pull like below a 140, and you're working really, really hard.
Why do I feel like we do 400s instead of 500s? Is that possible?
Maybe you do.
That it's programmed in?
It's possible. Generally, it's a 500 because it's like the Olympic race is a 2,000 meter race, and it's usually broken up into quarters of that.
Okay, so what's a good pull for 500?
Well, like for a CrossFitter, a 145. Most CrossFitters are they're like little buff gymnasts. They're like 5'8". These guys.
Yeah.
So like a 145 is really fast, and also. When you subtract seconds, like a handful of seconds, it actually wouldn't make that much of a difference within a WOD.
No.
It doesn't matter at all.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Right. Whereas when you're rowing, it can be the difference between winning or losing a race. So it's a big deal.
I think I did a race once. Or no, I think I used to. Was that in the Filthy 50? I forget what it was, but I remember I used to dog the row.
Yeah, you should. As a strategy, why would you push really hard there?
I think it was the Filthy 50 or where you're counting your calories there, and you're like,
right. You count up to 50.
Guys are getting 10, and I'm getting 3. And I'm like, I'll make that up in the squats in 5 seconds.
It's actually kind of silly to have rowing involved in most CrossFit workouts. On its own, I think it's good exercise, but it doesn't make any sense if you're trying to move really fast.
Yeah, it's but did you like when a row-in workout would come in, would you just smash it because of the?
Yeah. Compared to the guys I worked with, and actually I worked with a bunch of gymnasts, guys who were college gymnasts, and I love training that way now. I do a lot of stuff on rings. That's kind of what I prefer to do. Mm-hmm. So they taught me how to do that stuff, and then they'd get on a rowing machine and row like a 2-minute 500, and I could break to a 125 easily.
Wow.
But I outweigh them by 50 plus pounds, and I'm significantly taller than them.
So, where was CrossFit Marin? I've been there a million times. I don't even know where.
Okay. So CrossFit Marin's in Corte Madera, which is, if you've been to the Throckmorton, it's like, you get on Highway 101 and you go 15 minutes north of where Mill Valley is, where the Throckmorton is.
Yeah. Does the Throckmorton still exist?
As far as I know, COVID might have ruined it, but I think it's still open. What's his name was performing there until he died? Mort Saul.
Yeah, I had dinner with him once.
That's amazing.
I had dinner with Mort Saul. I've been very lucky in my career to have met almost everybody. Like anybody of significance. I mean, I didn't meet Pryor. I didn't meet. I've never met Jim Carrey. Everyone always asks me that one. I've never. Mm-hmm. But like sat down and had dinner with like Dana Carvey and Mort Saul, and hung out with Robin Williams there a few times, and worked with Robin Williams, like went on stage with Robin Williams and did improv with him. So I've had all these crazy stories. Like I used to smoke weed with Dave Chappelle and go over to his apartment. And like, if I wrote a book someday, it would just be like all these like crazy, weird experiences that I've had with, everybody from Andy Dick to Andrew Dice Clay. You name it.
I heard you telling the Andy Dick story. I've listened to a couple episodes of that old podcast, by the way. It's so funny.
Did you listen to it back in the day or just recently?
No. Recently. Recently I've been doing some stuff with Bobby Lee's producers for his podcast. And I listened to the Bobby Lee episode, which is hilarious.
He put his dick on my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so gross, that little thing. I love Bobby. But but he put his dick on my head. Hilarious.
But you also told that story about, and I actually didn't hear this episode. I'll listen to it after this. How Andy Dick wouldn't leave your house.
No, it was awful. It was awful. We couldn't get rid of him. But you know what? Like, I have an Andy Dick story. So does every person I've ever met has a story about him, because he's so friendly that if you see him, I remember like when I first moved to Hollywood, I saw him in a nightclub, and when you see a celebrity, you can't talk to them. They either have security or they're just so full of themselves or so far removed from everything. But Andy would talk to everybody. Yeah. And then it would lead to Andy's at your house. And they're still, God, the movie they're going to make about that guy someday. It's incredible.
I mean, he's one of the funniest guys ever, but he also seems like he does not give a shit. And he doesn't have, ironically, not a huge ego, right?
No, he's a sweetheart. He has a horrible addiction problem. Horrible. And should have been dead 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Should have, like, he's through like 7 of his 9 lives. And you're going to hear it someday. I'm so sorry, but you know, he's pushed it to the edge so far, and it's unbelievable that he's still alive. He is, he's a wonderful guy. Wonderful. You don't want to be around him when he's fucked up. It's funny, but if you see him when he's fucked up, get away, because trouble's going to happen. But God, I did a sitcom with him once, and he's so fucking talented, like so above and beyond anyone I've ever worked with. And if he could focus, he could be an Academy Award winning actor. I mean, he's like a Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, he's so good.
Wow.
Oh, he's so good. And he's just an artist. He's so interesting, and I love the guy. I just, you know, I see him coming and I run the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the funniest guys ever, but I haven't heard from him in a long time. I mean, I think I saw him at Haha with a guitar on stage maybe like 4 years ago when I first moved here.
Always something new.
Yeah, and he has like this guy who he brings with him everywhere.
It's always
his writing partner.
Always a new guy.
Like a boy.
Oh, it's all
yeah.
It's always different. It's
like a child who he says works for him.
I mean, it's almost like, did you ever, like, you go to the Venice Boardwalk and you see the freak show that goes on down there, and you go,
yeah, sure.
You go, I can't tell this to people because they just won't believe it. They'll be like, nah, you're making shit up. That's every day of Andy's life.
Yeah.
There's never a day that you couldn't tell somebody that they'd be like, what? Every single day. And so everybody's got a story about him. Everybody's story one-ups everybody else's story. And Andy's stories, that ones, because he does them alone, that you're like, what? He's like, I just got arrested. And you're like, what? And he's like, I was walking through Topanga and I heard music, so I walked in these people's house and I grabbed a drink from the refrigerator, and then they had me arrested. You know, like, and it's just every day is that.
Yeah. Well, he's like from a different era too. He's not appropriate for 2022.
No, they tried to Me Too him for licking girls' arms.
But how do you Me Too that guy?
And they said, is it true you licked a woman's arm without her consent? And he goes, that's my move. He's like, if they like it, I continue. and yeah, you can't Me Too him. But we thought that about Ron Jeremy too. And he's in prison.
That's a valid point. Yeah. He's actually in prison. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's in prison for rape.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a Dave Chappelle question.
Sure.
So did you hang out with Dave Chappelle before anything happened in his career, or he was doing pretty well?
He was always doing well. The dude started doing well.
But did you see this coming? Did you see like the $90 million, special deals and like getting publicly canceled, like, all the vitriol? Did you see any of this?
I saw Super Fame because there's always been sort of a pecking order, and he was always at the top of it. Like when I started, he and Brewer had just done Half Baked.
Right.
And that was like, they had a movie. They had a movie in the movie theater. I was auditioning for commercials and then starting to get auditions for movies, and way before I should have been. But I didn't understand how it all works. And if I could go back and do it now, I'd be a lot more confident. But I went to not a premiere, a screening of Half Baked before it was ready with Dave and Jim, and sat there and watched them watch their movie. And I was like, wow, like, holy shit, these guys have a movie coming out. And I remember thinking the movie was shit. I was like, this movie sucks. And I was like,
Was it the final product? Was it
No,
the
no,
one
no, no,
okay.
no. It wasn't done. And I think Saget directed that.
Yeah.
And Neil wrote it. And they probably all were there when I was watching it. But I remember Brewer being, I mean, there were shots where the boom mic was in the shot. And so it was way before we went to some little theater at NYU and we all went and watched it. And I just remember, it was pretty surreal because at the time I was fresh off the boat from Pittsburgh and I didn't know I'd ever be hanging out with these. And right away, I mean, I'd been in New York like a year or two and I'm already hanging out with, Dave Chappelle.
Like, yeah, one of the best comics ever. That's
I mean, he already was like, when Dave walked in, he could bump everybody at that age. I mean, we were the same.
He started when he was 13, right? Didn't he start?
Something really young, but 15 maybe. We're the same age, but he was years ahead of me already, not just in years he'd been doing stand-up, but in talent. It was like, here's a guy who has the talent of a 40-year-old. And so I was just completely intimidated by him. And we hung out.
But you still hung out.
Yeah, we go smoke weed and go to nightclubs together and just like hang out. And to be honest, I love Dave. He's a great guy. But I found him like boring to hang out with. Like, it wasn't my scene. And he'd be like, come on, you want to go hang out? And I'm like, nah. Like, no.
Why was he would just get too high and be quiet?
No, he'd just chill. And I'm not. Yeah. I'm crazy. I like to break chairs over people's heads and get chased by bouncers and, make the story for the next day.
Well, so you were hanging out with Bert Kreischer then?
Yeah.
That's what you're
Bert and I have been friends since day one.
What about Tracy Morgan? I know that famous Tracy Morgan.
Everybody has a Tracy story. I have a Tracy story. He got a gun pulled on us. And
oh, my God.
Yeah. We were out in a club, and he was hitting on some girl. This guy had two girls with him, and Tracy kept saying, you have two, give me one. And, and the guy kept telling him to back off. And I remember when I went out with him, it was one of those things. He came up to me at a comedy club and was like, man, you so funny, you got. And I was like, holy shit, this is Tracy Morgan from Saturday Night Live. And he thinks I'm funny and he likes me. And he's like, come on, man, let's go hang out. And all the comics were like, don't go. And I was like, I thought they were all like jealous. I'm like, you're just jealous that Tracy likes me and doesn't like you. And he thinks I'm funny. And they were all like, trust us, don't go. And I remember running out of the nightclub that night going, I will never hang out with that dude again. But he, again, super nice guy. He just crazy. Like,
no, I mean, that's what it sounds like. One of the funniest guys ever, but he's out of his mind.
Yeah.
In real life, too, not just on stage.
Yeah, and I love her. Tiffany Haddish is a very good friend of mine, but she is the, like, female.
Similar?
Yeah, she's like the female Tracy Morgan, except she wouldn't cause trouble. She's a really good girl, but she's just, like, wild to be around. She says whatever she feels, and but she's a sweetheart. So is Tracy, though. Tracy's a sweet guy. So, there's something to that. They're different. They're weird. They're crazy. They're, and that's what people are attracted to. Normal guys like me, they're like, yeah, what's this guy going to do? Yeah. But
you had a lot of success early on. Like people were interested in you.
Yeah. And then I lost it all. I did a really good job of shooting myself in the foot.
Do you think it was all self-imposed? I mean, you're still doing good. You're doing good now. You're doing a lot of dates on the road. I
think a lot has to do with your self-belief. And I always had this like, oh, I should be a star. But then as it would come, I'd be like, I don't deserve this. Like this is crazy. This is about to happen and I'm not ready for it. The amount of movies where I was almost like the star of like, dude, where's my car, or Road Trip, or, like auditioning for everything from American Pie to you name it. And
I feel like you would have been pretty good in most of those movies.
I kept losing to Sean Scott Williams.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that makes. I mean, you have a similar look and attitude.
The dude crushed me every time.
He's pretty funny.
He's really funny. And
Yeah.
I'd go in the waiting room and I'd see him and I'd go, all right, I'm out of here. like they're going to take him. So, I had development deals. I still get them. I mean, every once in a while they'll come through, but they don't, I don't have, it's getting to the point where now they want me to produce the show.
That's not, I mean, that's good money. Right?
Look, at this point in my life, I don't want to put on makeup. I don't want to learn lines.
Yeah.
I'd rather write the show and tell everybody what to do. So I don't give a fuck. I have a show I'm working on in Australia right now that is in development. I got to fly over there to work with the writers, and I'm so happy in my life, and I'm so glad I'm not like, it's fun to get recognized every once in a while, but I wouldn't want to. I went skiing with Bert once in Oregon, and we're in chairlift lines and guys are yelling out his name. I don't fucking want that.
Yeah.
I don't want, I like it when somebody comes out. Like I went skiing in Whistler one time and I just put on Instagram, hey, I'm in Whistler. You know, like just, I'm here skiing. And some dude wrote me back. He's a fan of the show. And he was like, hey man, I'm here too. What chair are you at? And I was like, you know, whatever, named it. He's like, I'll meet you at this one. I met up. I'm good buddies with the guy now. Like we've skied together a whole bunch of times. He's a really nice guy, and he knows fitness and he knows all this shit. And it's like,
yeah,
I like that. I don't want randoms, like, cause I had a little bit of fame in Australia. Randoms in the street put you in headlocks, and you know, you're like, why is this happening right now? And they're like, hey, funny cunt, come on. I'm gonna fucking show you to my friends. You know, and like, look who I just fucking caught, you know? And you're like, all right. So,
but that's a good situation, right? Because you're on the other side of the world from the place where people actually know, or where a lot of people know who you are.
Yeah. But it was funny. I used to tell, like, oh, you know, they're your peers and your high school friends, you know, you want them to see that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't exist. You know, you walk around with them in America and they're like, nobody knows you. Like, yeah. And if they'd ever come there, they'd be like, holy shit. You know, like, you know, people, it's, you know what, weirdly in this last year, it's happened more than ever. And I think I'm starting to get like a little bit on social media, and I'll have people like stop me, or I get this. Are you? And I'm like, and sometimes I'll go, I'm a comedian. They're like, oh, no. I thought you worked at my dentist's office. And I'm like, oh, okay. But every once in a while they get it. Or sometimes people say, what do you do? And I go, I'm a comedian. They go, what's your name? And I'm like, Eddie Ifft. And they're like, oh, I know you, you know, like,
yeah.
They don't recognize, but
I feel like that's not a bad place to be. Like, they always say that, like, I'm trying to think of who it would be. I mean, there are a bunch of comics who are the best comics who are generally not recognized. And part of the reason they're so good is because they can go skiing without everybody screaming at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can go do things.
My favorite comics are not, I mean, David Tell's.
I was thinking of Brian Regan. He's a good example, right?
Regan is, he's so popular, but at the same point, like I just hung out with him a few months ago, and it wasn't like people were running up to him and going, Brian Regan, where if he was Kevin Hart, there would have been, the whole place would have been swarmed.
Well, you wouldn't be able to hang out. You'd have to go to Kevin's house.
I think the difference is TV fame or stand-up fame and movie fame, because my manager manages Gabriel Iglesias, who is super successful in the stand-up world. I mean, like on a scale that's like, you know, 1 of 10 in the world. And I was just at a party and I brought him up, and every person at the party's like, Fluffy? Who is this guy? You know,
well, and media is splintered so much that no one's like, I mean, Kevin Hart is, but not that many people are famous. They're like famous in pockets now, it seems like.
Well, let's switch to CrossFit.
Okay.
Take these CrossFit films that the Buttery brothers make.
Yeah.
They go to like #1 on Netflix because of the niche audience. Niche. I never know what to call it. But if I said to any of my friends that don't do CrossFit, do you know who Matt Frazier is? Not one of them would know.
Right.
But yet that film went to #1 on Netflix or iTunes or whatever it was when it came out, and they crush it. And they have millions. When Matt Frazier and Rich Froning go to these CrossFit events, people are swarming them and going like nuts over them. But yet, if they walked into my wife the other day, we were skiing. Somebody asked her if she was some guy was like, "Hey, I know you," and she's like, "Is this like some guy gonna recognize me from Eddie's Instagram or something?" Because when that happens, it's creepy.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I saw you won the CrossFit Games or something," and my wife's like, "No, do I look that big?" Like my wife was a little like, "Oh no, maybe I need to slim down a lot," because they're like bulky.
Those girls are beasts.
Yeah. And my wife doesn't want to be that. She's to each his own.
Honestly, most women, I don't think want that.
No. It's I always say those girls, and I tons of them listen to this, and I have nothing against what you do, and I think it's great, and I think you are awesomely talented and unbelievable at what you do and fit and everything. But I will say this, and this is just to each his own. It's not what I'm attracted to, but I always see the girls like that when they stop training for like 2 weeks, they morph into like what I'm attracted to.
Absolutely.
It's like, "Oh, you look great to me now." But when you look bigger than me and stronger than me, and it's creeps. And maybe it's something about me. Maybe the bigger guys can be attracted. But I know guys that love that. That's their thing.
Yeah.
Not me.
I mean, and it's probably guys talk about niche. It's probably guys who are as deep into the niche as humanly possible, which is good because the girls are too. If you're that jacked, you should be dating some guy who's also a competitor, because otherwise, what the hell are you going to do?
Yeah.
Get a guy. It's going to be like your Australian fans. You get your boyfriend in a headlock every night.
Yeah.
That's not an ideal situation romantically for most guys.
Some guys are probably into that.
Well, they're out there. Yeah. And you probably could make a lot of money doing that too as a woman. Just being a jacked woman.
You just made me think of something funny about being into that. The other day I was buying ski socks for my son, and he's 2. And I go to the guy, I go, do you carry little ski socks for little boys? And the guy's like, "Yeah, I think they're around here somewhere." And he's like, "I don't really know little boys' feet well." And I go, Good. I was like, if you did, I would really not want to be in here. If you were like, "I'm an expert in little boy feet," I'd be like, he's like, "Yeah, that's not my thing." And I'm like, good. You don't get good at that. Don't. Let me tell you what sucked. But to each his own. And I've gotten a lot of criticism on this show for the way I've talked about CrossFit women.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I remember being attracted to Serena Williams as a kid, so I'm on board. I don't mind.
Oh, Hunter says that's his dream wife.
Yeah, well, and also part of it is like growing up an athlete. You're like, I think subconsciously you're like, I want to have athletic kids.
I think about that. I remember I married my wife. Her dad was a pro football player, and I was like, and my wife's not an athlete at all, and I was like, well, I hope the genetics are there.
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, you probably got some of it, I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's because you look at it. I talk to people all the time that are great at something, and you're like, "Oh, how'd you get?" And they're like, "Oh, I worked really hard." And then they're like, "Oh, my dad played for the Steelers, and my mom was an Olympic volleyball player." That explains. And a lot of that is genetics, but also a lot of that is the hard work that their parents did. They're able to nurture their child.
Of course. Yeah. There's an ethic built into the family.
Sure.
Everybody's working hard.
Sure.
That makes complete sense.
So why stand up? We didn't even, it's 49 minutes.
Sure.
And I want to know.
Okay. Yeah.
You go from CrossFit to stand up.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't direct. It wasn't that direct, but I was always kind of interested in it. I went back to school after that year when I was coaching as a CrossFit coach. I actually was a strength coach, like a volunteer strength coach at Vanderbilt University. I was a coach for the men's basketball team.
How did that happen?
I got into the school as a transfer, and nobody wanted that. It's a kind of school where nobody wants that job. So they just let me work for the athletic department for 3 years.
So you left Trinity, went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I went back to Marin. I saved up a little money. I went to the 2009 CrossFit Games, the team competition.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think that was the third CrossFit Games, as far as I know. Maybe second or third.
Yeah,
or fourth.
it's around then. I'm not. And
it was really, really early.
Where was it? Was it at the ranch?
It was at the ranch in Santa Cruz.
Wow.
Yeah. And we did workouts that were, we ran up that hill, I remember doing wall balls and everybody screaming, and everybody was wearing like knee-high socks.
So how'd you found CrossFit back when it was so obscure?
So yeah, that's what I thought we were going to talk about today. I'm happy. I'll talk to you. I'll ask you questions about comedy for hours. Yeah. I love talking about comedy. But I was going to Trinity to row, and my coach sent us an email, and he was like, this summer, before you get here, you guys should do CrossFit. It's this new thing. You should try it. And I found a CrossFit box in San Francisco, and I started going, all constantly.
Which one was that?
It was the one under the bridge. I think it was just called CrossFit. That was Kelly Starrett's gym.
Yeah. That's Kelly's gym. I've been there a bunch of times.
He's a cool guy. He was coaching me quite a bit.
And Kelly was a big kayaker.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I remember him referencing that. So I did it a ton, and honestly, and rowing, like we talked about, is not that fun. Rowing kind of sucks.
Is a lot of CrossFit. Did you freeze?
True, but relatively. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Relative to rowing, CrossFit is incredibly fun and engaging. So I liked CrossFit more than rowing. So by the time I got to Trinity, I was like, I'd rather just do this CrossFit stuff. And I was kind of thinking about it a lot. And then I finished the first year, and on my way home, I got a flight that stopped, I think, in Milwaukee, and I got my cert, my level 1 cert.
That's hilarious. In Milwaukee.
I'm pretty sure it was in the middle of the country. I think it was Milwaukee. And then I got to San Francisco, and I just got a job right away at CrossFit Marin, and I became a coach and was part of their team, and we went to the games, and then I went back to school. But that was kind of that was how it started. My coach recommended CrossFit, and then I got as deep into it as humanly possible. I was reading Rob Wolf's book. I was eating paleo. I was an 18-year-old weirdo obsessed with CrossFit.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I only had like one foot in my track career. The other foot was in my fraternity house. And so I was torn between partying and track. But I think if I was fully in, I mean, back then, CrossFit didn't even exist. But I would have, if I had any advantage I could find, I tried to add it. And so if CrossFit was around then, I would have added it. I would have been like, I'm doing this. Like, this is going to help me. Now I don't recommend it to someone running. I would do more sports specific. I think we're learning that this like generalized fitness, yes, it'll help prepare you, but once you decide if you're going to specialize in something, you need to do sport specific training. And I would not recommend CrossFit for a track athlete unless maybe they're off-season decathlete or something. But
exactly. But no, in hindsight, I kind of thought it was like a panacea back then, and I think a lot of people did.
I think so, yeah.
And now we're realizing that it's cool, but also people beat the crap out of themselves. And if you play one sport, you should train for your sport if you actually want to get good at it.
Yeah. I think it's good for someone like me that I want to stay generally fit, that I can mountain bike, ski, surf, do all the things I like to do. But if I was only surfing, I'd train surfing. Like I would train more for surfing and do certain exercises for surfing. Like I know Kelly Slater dabbled in it a little bit. Shane Dorian got into it. Not Chippa Wilson. There was someone else that got really into it. One surfer got really, really into it. But Nathan Fletcher does it now. but I'm sure they really cater it a certain way to what they're doing.
You have to. And I'm sure that, I mean, those guys are making a lot of money surfing. So they have a professional coach who's tailoring the workouts to surfing, of course.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. Jamie Sterling does it a lot. He's a big wave surfer. I've worked out with him a bunch of times, and he just has such natural fitness that's like incredible, you know. But those guys have all, thanks to CrossFit, it has bled into all these sports where you see them all reading Rob Wolf. You see them all eating paleo. You see them all using aspects that CrossFit reignited, things like medicine balls and, you know, kettlebells and all this stuff that kind of died that Glassman brought back, and it's going into all these sports. So, you know, that's...
No, I think you're right. The after effect of CrossFit, of like whatever, 2006 CrossFit, is good. It's a positive thing. Every gym in America has kettlebells in it.
Yeah.
And they didn't in 2001.
I mean, Rogan shits on it a lot. Not shits on it, but...
On CrossFit. Yeah, ironically, they informed a lot of what he's doing.
Right. He and I have had multiple discussions about it, and on his show. I think I was the first one to talk to him about grass-fed beef. And,
right, yeah, I heard you say that to Rob Wolf.
And so a lot of what this like community kind of created has bled into other. I mean, you look at the impact Joe's had, and Joe, as much as I don't think he even knows, it has been influenced by CrossFit, and the conditioning of CrossFit has bled into the conditioning of MMA.
Absolutely.
And even last week, I had the guy, the UFC gym guy, and he was saying that. He was like, you know, a lot of what we do is thanks to CrossFit and thanks to Greg Glassman. So, you know, now everybody's focused on sleep, eating, exercise. You know, there's all these biohackers on the internet.
Oh my God. Well, and social media has caused a lot of that too, because you can market these products to these very specific audiences.
Sure.
Could you imagine like a Hume or one of these like bands being advertised on an infomercial in 1999?
No.
It never would have worked.
But I don't understand how everybody isn't like, why we're so super unhealthy with all this shit that's at your disposal.
Well, here's what I think is happening. This is just a guess. I think the healthy people are getting extraordinarily healthy, almost to the point where they're like orthorexic and it's fucking them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the unhealthy people are even less interested. It's just like more,
it maybe pushed them the other way.
Yeah. I think there's very little in the middle now. There are obsessives, and then there are people who are actively trying to, you know, fuck up their own health.
I've been obsessive. I've been on that.
Me too.
But I also like shortcuts. Like I use this bed now. I talk about it all the time. The Sleep 8 bed. And I know it makes me sleep better. I know for a fact. I can see all the data on it. But I like it because it's easy. It's like...
Yes.
Like, I used to sleep poorly, and I know I slept poorly. And if you read like Matthew Walker's book on, you know, why we sleep, it'll say that I'm going to die in 2 years because of my past sleep habits. I used to think I could sleep 2 hours a night and just party all day and night and go and go and go. And now because I've got like a sleep aid, and I look at my data every day on my phone, like on my phone tells me what my percentage is, how many hours, how long it took me to fall asleep, how that I go on there and I'm so focused on now I'm like, you know, where it'd be like, I don't care how late I stay up. Now I'm like, I should be on a regular schedule. I'm going to get to bed. It's 11 o'clock. I really don't want to push it past this time. And then I get in bed, and I'm also, because the bed is warm when I get in it, it's like calling me. It's like, are you cold? Do you want to get in your sleep aid bed? Because we're warm over here. I stayed at a buddy's house skiing last week, and he had heated floors. His floors were heated. And I was like, this is heaven. And I was like, all I need is my heated floors and my heated bed, and life will be good. And I have an alarm in my bed. It vibrates to wake me up in the morning.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Now, this thing sounds like it costs like $20,000.
No, it's not that expensive. It's like,
okay.
So what you want to get, like I'm telling everyone, you have to get this. Like
Okay.
I sat at dinner with my brother-in-laws and I sold 3 of them. I'm not trying to sell them, but my 2 brother-in-laws and my brother all got on their phones and were like, I'm getting this thing tomorrow. I'm like, you should. They have this thing called a Pod Pro cover that goes over your mattress. I have their mattress too. I don't know how much the mattress costs. I think the Pod Pro cover is like $1,500 to $2,500 or something like that. But you pull that over your mattress, and that's the thing that does all the magic. So you don't have to have their bed.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But the Pod Pro cover is the thing, and it is like, I honestly, like they sponsor our show, but I'm like, everyone should fucking have this thing. It is a lot. Everything I kept reading when my wife told me we were getting one, I was like, I looked it up, and everyone was like, this will change your life. This will change your life. Because it's got AI, and it figures you out by your heart rate variability. And it like knows when you go to sleep. It knows how many tosses and turns you do in a night. So it starts adjusting like the temperature and stuff to how you sleep and how you should sleep. My buddy Bobby argues it with me all the time. He's like, shouldn't we like evolutionary wise, like figure out? And I'm like, no, Bobby, I slept 9 hours last night like a baby. I woke up. I swear to God, this is what I've noticed, because I was a really, really, really bad sleeper. And I just didn't think sleep was important. But a few weeks ago, I woke up and I looked at my sleep score, and it was like the highest I ever got, like a 99%. And I went to do a comedy show, and my words were coming out perfectly.
Yeah.
Like I had never done so well on stage where it was like my brain was working well. And I was like, oh shit, this is why I should sleep like this every night.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like entertainment and health aren't necessarily like inextricably linked, but your performance, if you are interested in enhancing performance, you're going to make yourself a better stand-up comic. There's no question. You can basically train to be a better comic, and sleeping well is a big part of that.
Because I knew the number, I'm on stage going, why, in my head, I'm like, why is everything like tonight just hitting? I'm not saying and yeah and like,
yeah.
I'm just, the words are coming out so effortlessly. They're hitting, the jokes are hitting, everything was on the tip of my tongue. It was, and I just sat there and I go, is this because I got a 99% sleep? Because Rob even said it. Rob's like, if I could go back, it's all about sleep. I'm just more and more. Yeah. I'm like, a couple guys I know that are really successful, I'm like, what's your secret? And they're like, sleep. I sleep a lot. They're like, I make sure I get like 8 to 9 hours a night of good sleep. So I don't know. So get yourself.
Well, I mean, sleep. Rob said that sleep is the top of the hierarchy, and then you got food, and then maybe training after that.
Yeah.
Sleep is everything. And I'm not good at it either. Like when I moved to LA to do stand-up, I literally slept in my car and worked at a gym to make money.
Hold on 1 second. Let me interrupt you.
Oh yeah, sure.
I got to go kill one of my dogs.
All right.
One of the 3 is annoying my neighborhood right now. Was it you? Probably you. Out. So always smart to have 3 dogs. Yeah, they're okay. And I can just, this one is going to pull all the cables out. All right, go away, all of you. So you went to, where'd you start comedy?
Here, I went to LA. I bought a car, a used car in San Francisco, drove down to LA. But my point that I was trying to make is I was sleeping like 4 hours a night tops, like not even sleeping, and getting up at 5 a.m. to train clients. And big surprise, my stand-up was, first of all, I was trying to learn how to do stand-up.
Yeah.
My stand-up was horrendous because I couldn't think. How the hell are you going to think if you've slept not even not in a bed and then you go on stage? It was awful. And then like as my life sort of normalized, everything got progressively better.
How long have you been doing it?
5 years.
Yeah. 5 is so fun. Like when you're in 5 years, man, it's like the best time ever. When you hit 10, you feel like you've figured it out. Mm-hmm. At 10, you feel like, I remember hearing Mark Marin say, they say it takes 10 years to make an overnight success.
Yeah.
And he goes, and they don't tell you till the night before if you've made it or not. And, but I felt like at 10, I started to find a voice. Mm-hmm. And I started to feel like a lot of the anxiety, the fear, my fear was never bad fear. It was enjoyable fear.
Yeah.
But a lot of that starts to dissipate and you'll miss it a bit. Like now I really miss it. Like you can't make me nervous. You can't go, hey, you could go, the president's out there watching your show. And I'd be like, really? Oh, great. Like it's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to, they said, hey, the heads of Universal, Paramount, NBC, ABC, they're all out there to watch you. And I'd be like, oh, great. What are they going to do? Like it's not going to do anything for me at this point because they've all seen me. If they haven't made their decision now, it's not going to. So that buzz. So I envy you being at the stage you're at because it's fun. It's like, holy shit. Like I remember going on stage and thinking, oh my God, there's a hot chick in the crowd. I hope she thinks I'm funny, and now I'm like, oh, I hope this show doesn't run long because I got to get home to my wife and kids. So you're
that makes sense, and it feels that way, and I feel like you're right about the 10 years from what I've seen. I mean, I won't even know what's going on until 10 years.
But the hustle you're doing right now, that never goes away.
No, I'm learning that too, man. I mean, it's at a certain point, I'm sure that people start asking you to do things more, but right now I am asking people so frequently. And a lot of the time I'm getting more yeses than I used to, but I am constantly seeking out stage time.
It never,
podcasts. It never ends.
It never ends. It just ratchets up.
Right.
Where you're hoping for that person to call you and you're calling that person, but they're on another level from where you were before. And it just starts, sometimes there'll be giant jumps, but most of the time it's incremental. And I find about this business, it's up, down, you see some of the biggest names doing shows. You're like, I can't believe he's doing that, and trust me, he can't believe he's doing that either. And he's like, why am I going to do this? Or, there's shows I agree to that I'm like, why did I agree to do that? And then there's other ones going, I can't believe they're paying me this. So, but it never changes. And all the guys that are way more successful than me tell me that too all the time. They're like, just get used to it. Like, don't ever rely on your agents or managers because they're never going to do anything for you. Like and I love my managers, love them. But, you got to almost look at them like they're secretaries. And you're doing everything. You're calling all the shots. You're doing everything yourself. And these guys, do the paperwork. And, they will give you good advice, but the hustle comes from you. And the guys I know that are the most successful are the biggest hustlers. It's like, it's not like sports. It's not like the most talented guy on the field is the huge success story in comedy. It's that guy that runs back to the huddle every play and gives 110%. Those are the guys Those are the Jim Gaffigans of the world.
Right. No, that makes complete sense. And when I started, I'm sure that you had a similar experience. I kind of didn't think it was going to be like that. I assumed that if you were extremely talented, you would just be given things.
That's what I thought. That's what I was hoping. I'm still angry about it. I hate this business because of that. I failed at everything and got kicked out of everything and arrested. And I was rewarded when I started comedy for being that guy. And I thought, holy shit, I found my place in life where you can succeed as a loser. And they didn't reward me. I mean, to a certain extent, they did. I was a bit of a fuck up. You know, I would show up. I was always drunk at shows and having fun, and the show would turn into like a circus. But, you know, I still wasn't Bert Kreischer or Andy Dick, you know, where they were on another level of even at that. And Bert hustles his fucking ass off like no one I've ever seen. But the point being, like, I used to get mad when the nerds took over comedy and the nerds figured out the internet. It was like the guys that used to be the back of the bus, the troublemakers, the just funny smartasses, got left behind. And the front of the bus, the front of the room, the kids that raised their hands in class, figured out the internet and also figured out how to do comedy. And maybe they weren't naturally as talented, but they figured out how to do it. They kind of hacked it and figured out by watching it enough how to do it. And I watched a lot of guys who would sit at the Comedy Cellar table and never get a laugh, all of a sudden become the most successful comics. And I think that's all changing now. I think we're going through a new phase where finally, you know, it's the guys who had figured out the internet became really successful. Well, now guys like me just hired the guys who have figured out the internet. And I'm like, oh, you guys work for me and do the internet for me, and I'll just be me, and I'll be authentically me. And I feel like it's working for me now. Like I'm finally like selling out shows, and it's happening. And I didn't change, but I don't feel like there's this like secret to the internet anymore. It's like accessible to everyone, where these guys knew all the secrets and got in there. And, you know, I watched it happen. And then when they did, they bullied everyone else. The bullied became the bullies. And
100%. Well, and there's like some, I mean, how satisfying would that be as someone who got bullied? I think they loved it.
Oh, they did, because I saw them. It's my whole argument about like political correctness and affirmative action and stuff like that is like, you don't fight discrimination by discriminating.
Right.
We fight discrimination by trying to end it and treating everyone like an equal. And I always find that people that have been discriminated against, as soon as they get on top, they're like, oh, fuck you, which I don't blame them. I would do the same, probably out of bitterness and resent and all kind. And when I have to work really hard that, you know, where say there's a club owner or an industry person that shit on me, and all of a sudden I'm getting success and they come back and they're like, hey, what's up? I have to work really hard not to go, fuck you. Fuck you. You were a piece of shit to me. And I just go, and I just try to be the bigger man. And I go, hey, what's up, man? How are you? You know, anything I can do for you, whatever. And I try, don't always do it, but I try. And I think us as a society, we're not doing that. I think we're doing the fuck you, you shit on me. And, you know, but like white men kind of had it coming. I mean, it's been thousands of years of we've been shitting on people. And, you know, now we're like, wasn't me, you know, I didn't do it. Yeah. But there's this culture of like, you had it all and now you're losing. And that's what a lot of the anger is in society. You know, January 6th was a bunch of white guys that feel like they're losing their place.
It's true.
You know,
When I started stand up in 2016, which I feel like was maybe the worst time in human history as a white guy to start stand up. I basically moved here, and the Me Too movement happened immediately.
Oh God.
So they're vilifying straight, like Woody Allen's going down. I'm a Jewish guy who probably would have done a lot better 20 years ago. Than now. And I don't mind it. It's kind of nice to have a little bit of a challenge, but I'd also like some money, I'd like to do well.
Well, I always tell people that say that, because I've been guilty of it myself, of saying at times, oh, it's so hard being a white, they don't call me for auditions or
right.
And then I go, it's not hurting Daniel Tosh. It's not hurting Jim Gaffigan. It's not hurting Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura. These guys are still killing it. You just need to be better. Like me, myself, I need to be better.
That I agree with that completely. And actually, in hindsight, I think it's a good thing, because if it's really easy, then you're not going to improve. You're not going to get better if it's just handed to you. And I think it would have been easy at a different time period, but the fact that it's hard means you actually have to be undeniable, right? You just have to be very, very good.
That term, Barry Katz said that in his podcast, and my old manager, James Baby Doll Dixon, used to say it too. You got to be undeniably funny. You just have to, and they won't stop you.
Right.
No one can stop you. And you look, I mean, like Rogan's undeniable, Chappelle's undeniable. They tried to cancel them. They couldn't, because they're undeniable. And once you get to that, I mean, Bill Cosby was on. Oh, wait.
He was good. He was good.
He was maybe one of the best, if not best ever.
Yeah.
But doesn't excuse raping 72
Well,
women.
it's totally. As far as I'm concerned, it's kind of a separate thing. The stand-up was incredible, and he's a horrible guy.
But I have a joke about like separating the art versus the artist. Mm-hmm. You can't do it in comedy.
It's pretty tough.
You can do it in music. People do it with Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
People do it with R. Kelly. People do it. All their
100%.
music. All their music still plays.
Yes.
And people were like, "I love this song," and it's a horrible, horrible person that sang it.
Right.
Comedy, you don't see Bill Cosby.
No. Well, yeah, because you're looking to the guy, you're listening to him. It's his personal experience. Music, you can separate from a human being, because it's that's not how they talk. That's not how they communicate.
Yeah.
I remember when the R. Kelly documentary came out, they were playing R. Kelly more.
So weird.
I remember I was in Ralph's and they're blasting R. Kelly. I'm like, you guys realize that he's literally like months away from going to jail? But they just reminded everybody that R. Kelly's good, and he was good. The music was good.
Well, I'm going to say something where I'm going to get attacked, but Michael Jackson was a child molester. Well, R. Kelly technically too.
Yeah.
Not technically, he was. I meant like, you don't look at it as the child molester. You look at it like he, basically raped younger women. But that is child molestation. I look at child molestation. I don't even want to talk about this. I mean, it's the fucking.
This is good for the WOD podcast, right?
Yeah, just the term. When you get terminology, I need a new theme for a show every year. I do a whole new hour every year.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking my theme this year is going to be on words, because of what happened with Rogan, with what happens. And it's all about, like, you can't fuck up with words. If you do, there's such a heavy price to pay by not saying something properly. And there's no rules. There's no book that says you have to say this, you have to say it like this. You can't say this, you can say this, you're not allowed to say this. I remember when I worked with Special Olympics once, I volunteered for Special Olympics, and they sent us a packet of how we had to talk about the athletes. Like, you can't say this, you can't say you can't, this is Special Olympics, but you can't call them special. You have to say mentally challenged, you can't say this, you have to address them. And I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, what the fuck is, like, can't we all just go have a good time and make these kids happy? Like, who sits around and makes these fucking rules and sits and decides, and then, like, hammers the gavel and says, it's final. It's mentally challenged. It's not special. It's you can't say the N-word. You can't even say N-word now. Like on Comedy Central, they told me they were going to bleep when I said the N-word. And I'm like, oh, is that? Now that phrase, the N-word, is not like.
Well, they were going to go beep, beep, beep. They were going to bleep the
N-word. And I was like, so can I say the word formerly known as the N-word? like how do we, and just, it's silly. It's silly. And it goes back to, nobody cares about fuck, shit, cunt, none of those words anymore. When Carlin talked about the words you can't say, which he made up, by the way, those words no one cares about anymore. And so they've moved into this like acceptable realm where all these other words have moved into the, unacceptable realm. And it's who creates the standard? Is there, like, what's the book on style, on writing and style, or I forget the name. I used to use it in a joke. But there are these like rules to writing and is there a book? Is there?
I mean, there might be, but the issue is it's going to be out of date immediately.
Yeah, because everything's nuanced and everything's contextual and everything.
And everything changes too. What offends people has changed so much over the course of the last 50 years. How could you just keep up to date with that?
But yet we will punish someone.
Yes.
For something they used back when it was socially acceptable.
Well, that too. Yeah. Like they're trying to cancel you guys who were in Western movies in the 40s. They're dead. It never ends. It's never, but the issue is all this post hoc adjusting. It doesn't work in hindsight. Try to change what's going on now. Well, why are we trying to change what someone did in the past? Just tell them what not to do in the future.
Because people have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Well, and everyone loves vilifying people. Joe Rogan's the best example of that. Everybody loves vilifying him, and I think most people don't even listen to his podcast.
No, I realized I know some people like this, kids, friends, whatever they are, that pretty much just live their life on their computer. They live their entire life. They don't exercise. They don't go do fun shit, and their kind of philosophy is, why should I get on a plane? Why should I go there and struggle and stress and fill up a suitcase and almost miss my plane and go when I can just watch videos of it, look at pictures of it, almost feel like I was there on my computer, and I don't have to go have that experience. And now I'm not going to criticize them. I get it, because there's a lot of anxiety and anguish to travel sucks. I do it every fucking day. So I get it. And the older I get, the less risky I want it to be. Where I'm like, people are like, oh, you want to go do a show in Pakistan? I'm like, no, I fucking don't. And I get these weird offers, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. They're like, they're going to give you $100,000. And I'm like, of course they are, because nobody wants to go there. And because I'm going to die. And so I turn that shit down, and but these people, there's this level of everything's so accessible on the computer, and they just sit on their computer all day long, and they got a lot of time. They got a lot of time to just go, that's bullshit. That's wrong. You shouldn't have said that. And them just saying you shouldn't have said that is them in their mind saying you shouldn't have said that. But they typed it out, which then you read it and you go, who the fuck is this guy to tell me and then you write back, and then they write back, and then all of a sudden the algorithm goes, hey, there's some engagement here. Let's draw some more people in. And then it goes. So I'm at the point now where I don't give a fuck what I say that, and then 50 times during the show I stopped saying something because I was like, I don't want to deal with someone complaining. But I wish I had zero filter. I really do. And I wish I just said what I don't want to hurt feelings, but I would love to have zero filter. It would be so fun.
Yeah, and there is a market for that, but you're just playing with fire the whole time. And also, but the question is like, what are you not saying? What do you want to say? Is there that much there that you're not saying?
The problem is the market there is not really the market you want to be in.
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah. But more and more, I used to think I was a liberal, and more I'm moving away from the liberals because
Oh, same here. Have you done shows in San Francisco recently?
no, I won't even. I mean, I am. I'm doing Cobb's on May 20. I don't know, May, like a Wednesday in May that like hopefully I do the Alice morning show a lot. And so Cobb's is a huge venue, and they're like,
Yeah.
they're like, I was like, I want to do Punchline. They're like, no, you should do Cobb's. And I was like, oh God. Like, that's when I say everything's relative. Like at one point in my career, I was worried about selling a 100-seater. Still am sometimes. And then you get up to like a 500-seater and you're like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. And it's just more stress. And so it never changes. The feeling you have in this business will be the same the whole way through. It's all relative.
I hope you get better at dealing with it at some point.
No, because the ante just gets upped. It does. It's just, and more stress. My wife just buys more shit and I got to pay for more shit. And this room right here, she's renovated or just redecorated 6 times. And I just see boxes. I'm a professional box cutter. I break down boxes I spend most of my time either child rearing, doing stand up, working out, or cutting up boxes.
Cutting boxes.
People should start taking that job where they go around and they go, I break down boxes. Like, you got a lot of boxes. I'll cut them up and put them in your trash neatly for you. I would pay someone to come to my house and do that. I fucking hate how much time I spend out there with a box cutter going. I have a horse stall mat, that you work out on, that people put in gyms. I have one in my driveway.
For
cutting boxes.
That's funny. I guess that's something to look forward to, cutting a lot of boxes.
Hey guys, here it is right here. I was talking about it earlier. CBDMD Freeze. That's what I like to use for all my aches and pains. It's mentholated. It's got CBD in it. And CBDMD is an innovative leader in the CBD and everyday wellness industry. They're committed to helping you stay on top of your game every day. Some of the top athletes in CrossFit, and absolutely the top, Justin Medeiros, Annie Thorsdottir. Those are some of the athletes that are using CBD-MD every day. If you are just, a soccer mom doing CrossFit, that's what I consider myself now. I'm a soccer dad. Or, you're trying to get PRs, or you're just starting fitness. Whatever you're doing, CBD-MD can help you get quality rest, relaxation, recovery, no matter what you're dealing with. I use it in many, many, many different ways. I use it for recovery right here. I use it for rest. My wife uses it for rest. My wife also uses the lip balm. My daughter uses the lip balm. Yes, CBD. And I'm not afraid of that because there's no THC in there. So when we talk CBD, we're talking CBD. There's no THC. There's no, whatever, hypertrope. I don't know, whatever they call it, but it's nothing to worry about. It's all healthy stuff and really good for your body. When I looked up using CBD, I found the top of the line product, and it was CBD-MD. If you want to make it easy to try everything, and when I say everything, they've got tinctures, they've got oils, they've got balms, they've got dog products for your pets that you can give them. If your dog needs relaxation or whatever it is, go to cbdmd.com. Check out their website. It's an amazing website. So many different products, top of the line stuff. I stand by it. Go there, cbdmd.com. The promo code is WOD. You're going to get 25% off your purchase of superior CBD products from CBDMD. All right. So once again, that's CBDMD.com, promo code WOD for 25% off. That's a really good deal, everybody. So check them out, CBDMD.com, promo code WOD.
What I was going to say about San Francisco is I'm from there, and it's changed so much in the last 20 years or so, just because of tech and woke, progressive, liberal culture. I always thought I was a liberal, and I'm about as far from it as possible now, because when I go back there, I feel like it's not the city that I'm from. Everybody works for Facebook, so they make $200,000 a year, and they're also offended by everything. They don't identify with anyone, yet they're like on the defensive at all times.
But I don't understand it, because I don't know anyone that really uses Facebook anymore. And
I know. Well, but the Facebook owns Instagram.
But even Instagram, like I put videos up on TikTok, and I'll get 500,000 views on a TikTok video. I'll put it up on Facebook, it'll get 200. And it's who's using this platform? I mean, it's
old people, but not that many people anymore.
Yeah, I just don't.
No, it's a good question. But I'm saying it's the kind of these people are the people who make a ton of money, but then also are upset that Joe Rogan said the N-word. They're extremely upset. That's a bad audience.
But they've always been there. I used to joke when Throckmorton about the hippie crits. I called them hippie crits because they're all like old hippies that live in Mill Valley.
Yeah,
and they recycle, and they're adamant about you recycling. And they drive their Range Rover that guzzles gas to take their recyclables to drop them off. And it's like, you're full of shit. You know, like you're all glass houses. Everybody's a glass house. Everybody's a hypocrite. And so just shut the fuck up, like, about criticizing other people. If you're going to criticize in a funny way, like I got in a big fight with Stormy Daniels, and it started this big thing on Twitter. I was just giving her shit for doing stand-up comedy. And when the whole argument ended, I was like, I could have taken the other side of that argument. I just was doing it to kind of have fun. And everybody was coming down on me. Like the liberals were like, I said that she should basically stay out of comedy clubs. That if she wants to go make money, go bring your audience. If you can draw an audience, go do it somewhere that like isn't a comedy club, because a comedy club's like jazz and it's for good comedy, and that she's not a good comedian. But I told her to stay in her lane. And
I think that's a good argument,
right?
By the way.
But it comes to words. I said, stay in your lane. And when I said stay in your lane, it became white man tells woman what to do. And I was like, well, I was taken out of context. Basically, what I was trying to say was, famous person that doesn't do comedy, don't use a comedy club. And they came after me with like pitchforks. And I couldn't believe it. Like the phone calls I was getting are like emails from Hollywood Reporter and Vanity Fair, like everybody wanting me to comment. Like, and I'm like, guys, I'm just fucking throwing out dumb thoughts on Twitter. I don't give a fuck. I don't stand by this shit. If she called me and said, hey, I just sold out the Irvine Improv for 12 shows. You want to open for me? I'd be like, yeah, Stormy, what night? Like, I don't care at the end of the day. I'm just like, I'm talking shit. And when we're talking shit, why does everybody care so much?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Although it frustrates me a little seeing like T.I. do stand up. Have you heard about that?
No.
I saw him at the Laugh Factory like a week ago. And it's like, you're not really doing stand up. You're doing like a meet and greet, which if you do it in some sort of private venue, that's totally fine. Do whatever you want. But it's pretending to do stand up that kind of drives me crazy.
See, you got to get over that. And I have gotten over it. What you understand, because I've seen over 25 years, I've seen them all come and go, from Meta World Peace to Danny Bonaducci to
Blake Griffin.
They all do it. And the thing is, just like we all want to be a rock star, stand on stage and sing, they all want to try it.
Right.
Who was I just with? I was with somebody who was really funny, and they were like, where was I? And they were like, I really want to try stand up. Oh, my buddy, he's a physical therapist, and he's like really funny on the internet. And he's like, I really want to. I'm like, come do it. Come do it. You should try it. Like, I want to surf big waves. I want to try it. I'm not going to be a big wave surfer. I'm not going to muscle my way in and steal all their waves, but try it. Like, everyone should try it. It's fun. It's hard. Then they give more respect to you because they understand the skill that it takes, the talent. I like playing guitar. I'm never going to be able to play guitar on stage with a band. I have so much respect for musicians. So much respect because I know how hard it is, and I suck at it so fucking bad. So I don't care about these people that, and you know, think about it this way too. T.I. is going to bring an audience that you couldn't bring, that is going to get to see you perform well. And he's bringing people that you never were going to get in front of. So thanks, T.I.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Or like Jeremy Piven or someone like that.
Yeah.
By comparison, they are making you look good.
Yeah,
that's a valid point. And they're bringing, they're probably people who never would even go to a comedy club.
The problem is when they come to a comedy club and that's the only thing they see. And then they say,
that's kind of the issue that I have. That people are like, yeah, I went to the Laugh Factory. It wasn't really for me. I watched T.I. tell some jokes.
Yeah. Well,
that's about as far from stand-up comedy as you can get.
Right.
That's my only issue. And I don't know. And I could like Donnell Rawlings. I'm sure you're
he's a good buddy.
Know him. Yeah, good friend. He went on after T.I. and I could tell they were disappointed. And I'm like, do you guys realize how much better he is than T.I.?
Yeah.
And like, you should be overjoyed that T.I.'s off stage.
They came to see T.I.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. And I don't want to go too much.
But Donnell probably made some fans that night. There were probably.
I bet it took him a second, but he ended up doing really well.
Yeah, there were probably people that went, "Wow, this guy's really fucking funny," and then took down his Instagram and blah blah blah. At the end of the day, our job is just to make people happy, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. Like, and if you think that way and you got on stage and you go, my job's just to make people laugh and have, like, we're doing a service. We're picking up, I always say I'm picking up someone's trash. Like, that's a service. Somebody drives by my house every day and picks up my trash, usually the boxes that I've cut up. And that's what they do. And I thank them. I wave to those guys. I'm very appreciative of them. And that's how I feel like I am. I'm just your trash man. I just come by and I give you a couple laughs and just wave to me. Thank me. That's it. That's all I need. I don't need you coming up in the street and fucking blah, blah, blah. Or, I don't need the blowjobs by 3 girls backstage. Well, midgets in stormtrooper outfits are serving me drinks and they're slipping slides with strippers and hookers going down the hall. I don't need that all the time. Maybe.
Yeah. Who needs that?
Yeah. But I don't know. I talked too much during this show. You made it all about me. I blame you. You asked more questions.
Well, I apologize for letting you talk on your show.
Yeah, but people get mad at me. They're like, "Why don't?" That's the biggest criticism of this show, is that I don't talk to the guest enough. Like, I don't ask enough questions. I talk about me.
I have a feeling that won't be an issue. I don't think anybody is tuning in to hear me talk on this show.
No, but you have a very interesting thing. Like, you're one of the very few CrossFit / comedians, because it's not, comics make fun of me all the time, or they'll dabble in it and then they'll ask me about, like, Big J's like, so you do CrossFit? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I've been doing it, or who else told me they've tried it? Was Shane Moss doing it? No. It's amazing, the guys that you wouldn't think. And JT Parr loves it. Do you know JT?
Yeah. I know JT and Tom pretty well.
Yeah, they're good guys. JT likes that. He knows so much about CrossFit, like the game.
Oh yeah, no, they're obsessed. Tom is too.
I didn't know Tom was.
He surfs and he's also doing cold plunges.
Yeah, I've surfed with Tom a bunch of times.
Oh, okay, cool.
But they do Chad Goes Deep, if anybody's listening. They're very funny guys. But there's a bunch of guys, like every once in a while. And it was funny when everybody started converting. I'd be at the Comedy Cellar table and Jim Norton would be like, so why shouldn't I eat grilled chicken all the time? And I'm like, oh, you know, omega-6 fatty acids, you know, like, and you get, you know, there was when Patrice died and Geraldo died and Hedberg died, there was kind of this, hey, the party's over. The party's over. It's time to start getting in shape. But I still see David Tell smoke a cigarette every fucking time I talk to him.
I think, but doesn't he do kettlebells now? Or he does something.
Does he? I don't know. I haven't asked him about it. I'll ask him.
I think he's doing something. Like he's like as close to CrossFit as you would think David Tell would ever get.
Really? I got to ask him because he's a good buddy, and I just hope he quits smoking one of these days.
Yeah, that's a little crazy that he's still smoking. He stopped drinking though, right? I think he did.
Hold on one second.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, it's my 7th load of washing my wife did.
Well, okay, so I think that comedy and CrossFit or something like CrossFit kind of go hand in hand though, because what is comedy when it's all said and done? You're trying to improve steadily over time, and comics understand self-improvement to some degree because they're interested in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get good at comedy. And that's as far as like health, fitness, any sort of athletic skill development. It's the same premise. You do it over and over again and you make adjustments and you get better, ideally.
Yeah, I think people, the internet also allowed people to really nerd out on their hobbies.
Yes.
And so you'll find that anybody, very rarely will you talk to, Attell was like the only guy I knew that was just so into comedy that all he did was write jokes. Mm-hmm. I'd see him at like 6 a.m. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like buying newspapers. He's like, writing jokes. Ever heard of it? And like so obsessed that that's all they do. But take someone like Rogan's a perfect example, that he's fucking awesome at jujitsu. He's awesome at stand-up. He's awesome at podcasting. He's awesome at archery. He has all these hobbies that he does, and he does them so well that the internet allows you to nerd out in them and not just be great at one thing. Where, like, for all we know, Tiger Woods is really good at some other shit other than golf.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Well, we know he's good at getting pussy, but
yeah, and he did all that Navy SEAL training. He's good at. He could probably kill some people. Honestly.
Oh yeah, he was super physically fit. Super
yeah.
fit. So, I mean, I used to hear rumors way back in the day that he was on like test and HGH. These were rumors, and I was like, yeah, that's completely possible. I mean, like, look at the size of the guy. The guy's jacked.
Yeah.
And no one, I don't think back then they were testing golfers. They probably do now. You don't think? I think they probably drug test them.
I bet they test everybody now in pretty much every sport. In like, Formula One racing, I'm sure they're testing everything.
Tennis. Or I mean, not tennis. I mean, table tennis, they probably test.
Yeah, exactly. Billiards, they're testing in everything. But I'm sure he was on some stuff. I'm sure a lot of people were on some stuff. But did you watch the documentary, the HBO documentary?
No, I heard it's great.
Well, his dad was, I think, a Navy SEAL or like Green Beret or something.
Oh,
and
really?
Maybe when his dad passed away, he started not just like physically training, but also like doing simulations where he would get airdropped into the middle of some sort of like fake black ops thing. He'd have to kill everybody with paintball guns. So he probably could be in the military if he wanted to, or like.
I gotta watch this now.
You should watch it, and it's the first half is about stuff like that, which I thought was fascinating, and the second half is stuff you already know about how he slept with some Denny's waitress or whatever.
Yeah, who cares about that?
It segues into the sex stuff. It was fun. The news was exciting when it was happening, but there's a lot of stuff you haven't heard before in the first half.
I've always been a firm believer that, and I said this all through the Me Too shit, that, look, men have testosterone. Men have an area of sexual pursuit in their brain that's bigger than what women have. Men, it's what drives us, and it's why men achieve greatness, because they're driven by sex. And people tell me I'm crazy, and that means that I'm a sex fiend or whatever. sorry, I've been sleeping with the same woman for like 10 years. You know, like I'm not a sex fiend. I just know that's a driver. And
Absolutely.
through puberty and, you know, when you have high testosterone. And I heard a woman on a transgender on Rogan that went from female to male that took testosterone, and he was like, oh, this is why men are like this. Like, oh, this is what's going through our bodies or through men's bodies. And so, like, you know, there was probably a lot of like why Tiger Woods achieved greatness was, you know, that was the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And now when you're taking that pot of gold away, I mean,
well, and he also got injured, but yeah, I mean that maybe there's less of an impetus to succeed if you can't just have if you can't have like a orgy with 20 different women.
Yeah, you don't get rewarded for. But I think it's going to change because I think the whole concept of like, you know, that's been made taboo. It used to be like, you know, I'd come back from a show in England and tell my friends about what went on in the green room. And they'd be like, oh man, I wish I was you, you know? And I was like, I did it for you guys, you know, like I got to do this because of what I've done. And now it's so taboo and it's looked down upon that it, you know, might not be a coveted thing. There may not be this urge culturally to do that, you know, and
it's tricky because the biology hasn't changed much.
Yeah.
We still want to do that.
Maybe not with some of the shit I did.
but the point is, it'll be interesting to see what happens because it's so frowned upon.
Yeah.
To benefit sexually from your profession.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that funny?
But people still want that, at least a little.
People still want it, and people still do it, and they're more secretive about it now.
Yes.
And
a lot of NDAs. There's a lot of paperwork now. I feel like
you're not going to stop it. Because, like we said, it's the driver. It's part of the DNA. I mean,
100%.
I did a show about this called "What Women Don't Want to Hear." It was I did it in Australia. If you go read the reviews of it, I got 1-star reviews by every paper. The feminists and the were calling me like they were saying I should be deported from Australia. And all I was saying is that, like, you know, we're the highest species. We're the most evolved species. But if you go down the line and watch animals mate, it's not pretty. It's not pretty to watch animals mate. And it's not pretty to watch humans mate. Like when we watch porn, it's, you know, it can be ugly. But there's something in our DNA that drives it. And it's why we procreate. They've made sex enjoyable. It's why we procreate. And you're not gonna be able to take that away. You're not gonna be able to take away the feeling of an orgasm. You know, look, I'm happy we're more evolved. I don't want rape to exist. I don't want people sexually assaulting or sexually harassing. But when consenting adults are doing things and having a good time, it's this, you know, the guilt, shame afterwards. Like, you shouldn't have done that. Well, why not? Well, because he's your boss. Well, but you know, the girl's like, I wanted to have sex with him. Yeah, but he used his power.
Oh, it's so well, and it seems like a lot of people are realizing that someone used their power, and maybe this is the part you should cut out. But people are realizing that the power was used like 10 years later. That's too late to figure out that power was the reason for the dynamic.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So you have sex with your boss, and then you regret it years later.
Yeah, right.
And then you try to vilify this guy when it was pretty consensual, or at least it seems like it was when it happened.
So I see how you're scared making that statement. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% scared, but
no. But
I do podcasts and I say stuff like that all the time.
But
it's not socially acceptable to say it.
No,
anymore.
And my point is, why isn't it? Because one woman is going to come on here, or one man, and say, and you know what? This is one of those times where I go, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, I'm not going to follow your set of rules. And And I agree with you on that. I agree with you that, and I can't believe we got on this conversation. Let's bring it all back to CrossFit. Greg Glassman. I didn't like the guy for years. And now I think it was the biggest mistake ever to get rid of him.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not fully up to date. You got to tell me a little bit of what's happened. Cause when I was watching CrossFit videos, he was in charge. He was the figurehead.
They outed him. They outed him. Basically, he made some comments on Twitter during the Black Lives Matter that, from what I understand, he thought were funny. Okay. And that's the problem with Twitter.
What kind of stuff was he saying?
I forget what the joke was exactly. I'd have to, and I don't want to say it. But the criticism started, some ultra liberal people. Ultra-liberal progressives. That's progressives, went on the attack against him, and all of a sudden there was a pylon. And I believe that the pylon wasn't just for that incident. It was for everything he had done in the past that had upset somebody, looked at it as an opportunity to pile on and get him. He's down. Kick him when he's down. Now we've got him. And everybody, without being very myopic, kicked him to the point where the value of the company was dropping so quickly because gyms were de-affiliating that he had to sell because it's like he owned a stock and it was CrossFit, and at a certain point it was going to be worth nothing if he held on to the stock. So he sold his share of the company to venture capitalists who were spearheaded by this guy, Eric Rosa, who became the CEO of the company. And everybody was happy about it. This new guy's going to come in. He's going to turn it around. CrossFit's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And then some people called for Castro's head. Hey, why is he still there? Why? He's part of the old guard. You need to clear everybody out. If that was a culture, you need to clean it out. Castro stuck around. He created the games. He was in my opinion, essential part of CrossFit. Absolutely integral. Like, you can't do it without him. And then eventually he got removed recently. And then the CEO stepped down. And now he's part of the board, but they're going to assign a new CEO, which they said was always in the works. They could be right. I don't believe that. I think that's just the party line. But it seems like there's a bit of turmoil, and it seems like the points that Glassman was making in the past about health, about everything, were really right. And the two of them, between Glassman and Castro, created an incredible thing that has had a ripple effect all over the world. And there should be a little more gratitude and gratefulness rather than picking at a statement that he made that he shouldn't have made, because everybody's fallible. And I get it. I used to make a joke saying, like, just because you bring your wife flowers every day doesn't make you immune from punishment for beating her once. One murder is all you need. But there's also a spectrum. And murder is a lot worse, or rape is a lot worse than making a dumb joke on Twitter. And, once the joke came out, then everything came out. Everything wrong he had ever done. And I wouldn't want to put my life on the stand. I wouldn't want to be judged. I've done a lot of good things. I've done a lot of bad things, and I'm not proud of the bad things. I did them. We live, we learn. And I think that's everybody. I think every single human being. I mean, this whole idea of you shouldn't be able to comment and be able to go after and pile on unless you're perfect, unless you can prove you're perfect, because I'm sick of this like bullshit of everybody just go. It's opportunism. It's like, hey, they're going after him. It's like the kids in the schoolyard. Hey, the bullies are picking on a guy. Let's go jump in with the bully because we don't want to get bullied. And so this cancel culture is just opportunism. It's like, hey, let's bring somebody else down so that we can, in Australia, they call it tall poppy syndrome. They cut the tall poppy flower down so that everybody's equal.
Right.
And I think that's what we've gotten to in the United States is that people have become so successful and famous and everybody's jealous of them. And they're like, well, how do we bring them down? How do we destroy them? Because this is unfair that they're living a better life than us.
100%. But it also seems like people are learning how to navigate it a little bit better. I don't know what exactly Greg Glassman did. I mean, he sold the company, so he kind of relented immediately. But
he got a bunch of money, but that's not what he wanted.
You're right. But people like Rogan and Chappelle, I mean, they're basically just saying, fuck you guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, since day one, I told people, stop apologizing. Stop.
Yeah.
Look, they're not gonna let go of you. They're like a shark. There's blood in the water. They're gonna finish you.
Yes.
And Joan Rivers never apologized. Never. She would say the most horrible things, and then people would say, "You can't say that," and she'd go, "Fuck you." Like, and
Joan That's by far the best way to do it. By far. Because if you give in, then you end up having to do what Greg Glassman did.
Yeah.
You got to continue apologizing forever.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what happens with Rogan, because he did apologize. That might be the end of it.
But I don't. When I saw Rogan apologize, I realized he was being sincere. Right. That's who he is. He apologized because he felt badly. Mm-hmm. I have used that word before on stage, in comedy, and I stopped using it because I heard Dean Edwards, a comedian that used to be on Saturday Night Live, who is a good friend of mine. I heard him on Mark Maron's podcast, and he said, when I hear a white comic use the N-word, the comedian on one shoulder is going, hey, man, that's funny. And he goes, but the black guy on the other shoulder is going, you should go up there and punch him in the face. And Dean Edwards is the nicest guy I know. And for him to feel that way made me realize, if that makes Dean Edwards want to punch you in the face, shouldn't say it. Because Dean is the nicest guy in the world. And he's funny, and he's accepting, and there's no like, Dean's not out there grandstanding, or he's just a good guy. And so I realized, I'm like, that must really bother him. And why, like, it's not worth the laugh that I would feel like, that I would make people feel badly like that. So I would apologize for using it. Like, I would apologize like Rogan did, because I think it was an authentic. But when you apologize, like, to keep a show, Joe's not going to lose a show. Joe's going to go somewhere else. He'll make $100 million.
That's why guys like that don't really have to apologize, or they can do it their own way, because they're completely in control of their own media, their own source of media. Like when Whoopi Goldberg got in trouble for, I don't even know what the hell she said. She has to apologize because it's not her show.
Right.
She has no choice.
Right. And is she sincere? Like, Rogan,
I don't even know if she knows what she said.
She said something about the Holocaust, and
no. I know what she said, but I don't know if she knows the implications, or if she knows even what she got wrong, because it's all semantics. Like, it doesn't really. Who gives a shit if she doesn't know that the Jews are a race? Yeah, it doesn't really matter that much, right? And she wasn't intending to piss people off. And I think the same goes for you and Rogan saying the N-word, especially the time period when you said it. You probably said it in like the early 2000s.
When you got rewarded also.
When everybody was saying.
For being edgy. That was edgy comedy. And and it was, it's funny, you got rewarded for it then, you get punished for it now. Yeah. And the whole idea was, how can you construct a clever joke around a word without the word having malice in it? Exactly. Completely taboo concept. Do you say it in context in a funny way and make everybody laugh? Yeah. I get it. Yeah. And you can still kind of do that. You just can't say certain words. Sure. You can still construct bits like that. Yeah. That's a lot of the best stuff. I mean, one of my favorite jokes ever is Ryan Stout had a joke. He goes, I'm so afraid of the N-word, I won't even say vinegar. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's brilliant. Yeah. it's genius. And yet now it could be construed as, oh, and it's like, well, should we stop saying vinegar?
Well, then it never ends. Yeah. Like I heard someone say.
Well, it is never ending right now.
Yeah.
Until you start going, we're being silly, everybody. We're being silly.
Well, and also here's my question. And again, maybe this is not the best for the WODcast.
No, not anything goes on this show.
Okay. So I think that like, and maybe Dean Edwards is a good person to run this sort of thing by. If he feels offended, then you probably shouldn't do it. But I feel like the people who get the most offended probably aren't even Black people.
Yeah, I think that happens a lot because I called. This is funny. Somebody made fun of me for doing this. I go, after the Rogan thing, I called a bunch of my Black comic friends to find their opinion on it. And one of them, who has a very strong opinion and is always calling out racial inequalities, was like, man, this is bullshit. He's like, they're going after him. He's like, they've targeted him. This is all for other shit. That shit was old. He's evolved. He's evolved. Could he have said that shit? They're like, came up in Boston. You know, like, people aren't allowed to grow. People aren't allowed to become better, you know, better people. Like, they're not allowed to. And he's like, this is bullshit. It's almost like we should go after the people that started, the people that.
Of course, if you're profiting off of virtue signaling based cancellation, you're an awful person.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw a thing that they said Dave Portnoy from Barstool was saying that, like, you know, they've been trying to cancel him for years, but you can't. Like, he owns his own thing. Like, you don't. And somebody had put a clip together, an edit together of him, and they found that the edit of Rogan was similarly done as the edit of Portnoy. And so he had found the guys who did it. He asked them to debate them. And when he was debating them, he pulled out, somehow he had gotten a hold of a text. It's these three progressive brothers. One's a lawyer, one's a this. I forget their names. I looked them all up. They're very like Hillary Rodham Clinton kind of like thing. They went after, you know, Rogan. They supposedly, he thinks they created this edit, you know, of the 10-year-old thing. And they, one of them, Portnoy had somehow gotten a text message from one of the guys to some girl where he uses the N-word. And it's just, that's what's going on. It's like the pot calling the kettle black in all these situations. And glass houses, people throwing stones. Like, we all have faults. We've all done wrong things. We've all, you know, none of us are perfect. And if you are perfect, okay, then you can go around and start pointing your finger and telling everybody what they're doing wrong. But guess what? You know, let me see your internet cache. Let me see what you've been searching.
But also, those aren't the people who are like really truly virtuous. Those aren't the people doing this. Why would they ever do that?
No.
They don't even care.
No, it's pieces of shit.
Yeah. Well, pieces of shit trying to take down other pieces of shit in an ideal situation. More often than not, it's some person who sucks, who's trying to ruin some like kind of someone who's not at fault, trying to ruin their life. Some guy who didn't really even mess up.
Yeah, I see it a lot in the trolling world, where they target people and they brigade them, where they they get all their people and let's go after them and let's bring them down. And it's like, good luck.
Well, and the problem is doing it with sincerity. Like, there's funny trolling. You can troll people and be hilarious, but also it's tongue in cheek. So you're not actually trying to take anybody down. Right.
You're doing
that's the good stuff.
You're doing the same thing as a comedian is doing jokes. That's tongue in cheek.
I don't mind that. I think a lot of the funniest stuff out there is basically that.
Me neither. You know, memes are hilarious. And yeah, that stuff's funny. It's when you're like making it a targeted assault on someone to ruin their life.
And you obviously have no sense of humor, else you wouldn't be doing that.
Right. Well, you obviously have, there's something wrong with those people, like something really, really wrong in their life.
Well, and it's the internet. It's this box.
Yeah.
It's living in your computer, like you were talking about before. And I'm jealous of a comic like you who started kind of like as the internet was I mean, I'm assuming you were like
96. I think the internet had
that was-
just started.
there you go. And the internet back then was not the internet now.
No.
It was just like photos that took 45 minutes to download. That's a totally different landscape.
I miss it so much. It was so much better.
I'm really jealous. How old was I? I wish I had started stand up when I was 7. That would have been great.
It was so much fun. And there was just an innocence to it that was like awesome. Like you just weren't aware of everything, of what everyone was doing. You know, I'd go do a gig and you'd be like, oh, what are we going to do when we get there? And they're like, is there a movie theater in town? Oh, we'll go, all the comics will get together and we'll go see a movie and then we'll drink at the bar and shoot the shit and nobody will be on their phones and we'll do the show and the show is great and you meet. It was, I'm glad I got to do it. I look at like Patrice and Geraldo and Hedberg. I'm like, they went out at the right time. They got out before this bullshit.
Yeah.
So
you knew Patrice pretty well. He's one of my favorites of all time.
We didn't get along.
Oh, really? I remember I saw you in his. It was his roast, right? You were in the video.
Yeah, I was calling him. I think I was calling him a fat cunt or something.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, I talked about the back of his neck looked like a hot dog roll.
Yeah.
We used to butt heads all the time, but like, no matter what, there was like still this like. I don't know if it was on his side, but I had a respect for him, a certain respect. But he was a bully. He was he was a real bully, and I'd see him do it. He did it to me a lot, but I didn't care because I can take care of myself. Like when he would bully me, it was just he was louder than me, and I couldn't. And he would just like laugh at his own shit and make everybody else laugh. And his comics are such weak people that they would jump on the bandwagon. And I was like, what are you going to do to me? Like, you can't hurt me. And, but I saw him do it to like some people that didn't deserve it. And I thought it was mean. And I always think he's been put on a pedestal that didn't really deserve it.
Oh, interesting.
I just think like there was a lot of mean shit. And everyone's like, was he a great comic? Yeah. But again, like separate the artist from the art.
I think what it seems like to me, and this is from a pretty, I wasn't there. I'm looking at from a pretty far distance away from when it was all happening. It seems like he had a lot of insecurity.
Sure.
He was good.
What comic doesn't?
No, but he was like crippled by it, which is why he's taking it out on everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And I felt that way before. I get it.
But I guess I didn't see that then.
No. How could you? How could you possibly see that?
Yeah.
And if you watch the documentary, you watch his roast, it makes it look like the guy was he was trying not to look insecure, and he was so incredibly insecure that allowed him to be kind of a funny comic.
That's every comic.
But he's noticing some things that other people don't notice, and he was such a big presence that he could kind of just. I don't think everybody can get away with taking out their insecurity on other people the way he did.
He gave me some great advice one time.
Okay. He's
like, when you finally stop giving a shit completely is when you will become really funny. Right. He's like, when you can like point at the industry executive in the crowd, like, and just make fun of them because you don't give a fuck if they hire you.
Yeah.
Is when you will become so funny. And there was a point in my career where I finally got to that. Not saying I got funny, but I got to the point where I don't give a fuck who you are or what you do. And it's so freeing, and it allows me to say whatever I want and be free and be funny on stage because, like, what are you going to do to me? And it was, a lot of that was the Rogan influence on me of, like, take everything into your own hands. Like, I don't even use an agent. I stopped using, I had, like, the most powerful agents in Hollywood. I stopped using them because I didn't like them telling me what to do. I didn't like their control over me. I like being completely autonomous. And That's what we are as stand-ups. And so like
Yeah.
the less control, the less people that I was out with a buddy the other night who's an editor that has a big company, and it's like huge. And he was just talking about having all these people under him that he's responsible for. And I was like, yeah, the bigger I get, the more people that work for me, and the more then I feel indebted to them. Like, oh, I've got to do this, and I've got to compromise now this decision because I have to make sure they get paid because they have a wife and kids, so it's like there's like a sweet spot and a way to like do this business where you try to stay as autonomous as possible, work with as little people as possible, and just have pure freedom. And Patrice had figured that out. I mean, he was in a very free mode, and that's what made him so funny.
And you feel like where you're at professionally kind of dictates that? Like if you're in control of the stuff you're making, that's going to help you a lot?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Is that what like elicited that feeling for you?
Yeah. Just
making your own stuff?
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of it was just by necessity, you know, when you start hearing no constantly, you're like, well, I'll do it myself.
Right.
When they were always going to say no. They only say yes once you've made it yourself and it's successful.
Yeah.
Once you've made the project yourself, then everybody jumps on. Nobody jumps on a train that's not moving. Like, and they want you to get the train moving, and then but you got to build the engine. You got to get it started. You got to get it moving. Once you get it going, then they all want to jump on. But for years I sat around going, why isn't anybody helping me build this engine?
Right.
And they're not going to. No one ever will. I don't care how successful you are, how talented you are, they're not going to do it. Those talented guys did it themselves. So do everything yourself, and when it becomes successful, don't let them on. Don't let them on board, because then you're indebted to them. Then you feel obligated to like make decisions for them. So like, I think the key to this business is freedom, and just having as few people involved as possible. And then there's this little disruption also, you know, like you just have, you know, a couple people that you consult with, and instead of like 20 people calling you, having conference calls and saying this, and just sucks.
Well, and they're just trying to feel important half of the time too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a TV show in Australia once. It was really funny, called Thank God You're Here. And they go, why they did it in America and the show bombed. They go, why do you think the show's bombing in America? And I was like, and I had my reasons, but they go, well, we went and the show was taping at like 7:00 at night, and we were there at 3:00, and the audience was full. And we were like, why would you have the audience here 4 hours before the taping of a comedy show? And they go, oh, that's not the audience. Those are the executives. And they go, that's why we think the show's bombing. And I go, you know what? I think you're right. I just too many cooks, you know.
Well, and also people who don't necessarily know what they're doing. I mean, that's pretty transparent now, right? They're just remaking everything. It's just who can make the safest decision possible. That's what it seems like is happening now.
The gatekeepers will always figure out a way to weasel their way back in. As this business changes and metamorphosizes and they get removed, they will find another angle to get back in. I always find that. It's like leapfrog. It's like you find a way to put your shit on the internet, and then all of a sudden they find a way to get you more visibility, and then you got to sign on with them, and you're like, oh, now I'm with them. And now everybody else who's not on with them wants to be with them, and so they've got to kiss their people. It's a never-ending battle, but the less people I can work with, the fucking better.
No, I agree with that. Based on very limited experience, I 100% agree with that.
Do you still work out?
Exercise?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I do less than I used to. I mean, I have a history of really destroying myself.
Yeah.
Like beating the living shit out of myself. So I've learned how to pull back a little.
Yeah.
But I surfed during lockdown. I started learning how to surf. I think that's really fun. I'm not good at it, but I like it.
You're one of those guys.
What do you mean?
We don't like
lockdown surfers?
Yeah, we don't like the COVID surfers. They've ruined the lineups.
I probably have ruined a lot of lineups.
Yeah.
What else? You
got to start.
I do a little.
I'm just fucking with you. You got to start.
No. I get it 100%. There probably were a ton more people out there during COVID.
Yeah, it was insane. It still is.
Yeah,
because they all took it up.
Well, I can't get out as often as I was because I have more stuff going on in I live in Hollywood. So in the city, it's a little hard to get out there and come back.
Yeah.
You live in Malibu,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm jealous of you. If I could just go down the hill and get in the water every day, I would do it every day.
Yeah. Well, you do until it's like comedy. You would like to get up every time. I look at the audience and I'm like, it's not sold out. I don't want to do this show.
Yeah, no.
It's the same way. It's the same way with surfing. I've been surfing for so many years that it's like, oh, it's not offshore. It's not like I'm going to Costa Rica next week, and I'm like, I'll surf every day there.
Right.
But here,
right.
It's 56 degrees. 2 to 3 foot. It's not that good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But to answer your question, I do a gymnastics strength routine. I do that 4 times a week. Have you done like back levers on the rings or anything like that?
A little bit of stuff, like play around. My daughter's in gymnastics, so I play with her and do stuff like that. I
love doing that. And I've had a bunch of, I've slipped my C4 like a million times in my mid back.
Yeah.
And the exercise that works the best is like something along the lines of swimming. Surfing's not bad. Doing like some yoga and doing the gymnastic strength stuff, but I still do some kettlebell workouts that are that I like to do swings and thrusters.
Where do you go to work out?
I'll do it I work out of I used to work out of a private gym that I still go to sometimes that has rings hanging from the ceiling, but I own a pair of rings. I have a bunch of kettlebells. I'll just kind of do it wherever. There are parks all over Hollywood.
That's awesome.
That are great for that sort of stuff. Yeah. I'll see homeless comics who I started with. It's fun.
I always love that about the beginning of comedy.
Yeah.
The like group you start with, there are some people.
Oh my God. Well, I think especially in LA, probably in New York too.
New York, it was bad. It was like, there was one comedy club, the New York Comedy Club, where everybody was cross-eyed. Like everybody that worked there had like a lazy eye, from the manager to the owner to the busboy. And I was like, is this like a prerequisite? And they were all aspiring comedians. I don't know how many of them are still in it, but I remember thinking, like, when you start in this business, you are amongst the dregs of society.
Oh,
and it's everybody who couldn't do anything. And society said, you know what? You are such a fuck up. You should talk about it on stage and you will get paid for it. And so that was hard for me in the beginning. I was just like, is this who I'm going to be around my whole life? Like, is this?
Yeah. I mean, that's how I felt too.
Is this my peer group?
Yeah. It's hard to compare yourself, to think like, am I one of these guys?
Yeah.
To compare yourself to those people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are really nice guys,
Sure.
but I never thought I'd be hanging out for hours with them at a time.
Yeah.
Guys who like can barely speak English and like scream off mic. And again, I now I go to specific parks to avoid those people to exercise because I've seen them so often.
Well,
it's in the middle of like a tough kettlebell workout.
This is not a nice thing to say, but of those people that I saw, that I was like this person's just a crazy person. None of them made it. So,
how could they? How could they?
Well,
they can barely like shower. How are they going to make it?
So my point being, like, the hangout, you don't need, like, hanging out in our business. People don't understand hanging out, networking.
No.
It helps you get further along because your peer group is what pulls you along. Those don't let them be your peer group. Just don't.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. But you do find yourself in the same location.
Yeah, and they tend to just hang around, and you're like, oh, I'm here with this person, and they've worked their way into this conversation, and it happened. It was a lot. And I came up in New York City, and all my friends were all Wall Street traders, and they were, just all really good schools coming on, like making these amazing salaries and bonuses and, hobnobbing with the rich and famous. And I'm hanging out with, people that look like they got hit in the face with a baseball bat 20 times. and I was just like, oh, what have I done? What have I done? I hope this works out.
That's kind of, the second I started, that's how I felt too. I went to school at a prep school in San Francisco. Most of the people I went to school with work for startup companies now. They're doing very well. Google, whatever. And I'm hanging out with a guy who like may or may not have had a lobotomy. I'm like giving him a ride somewhere.
Right. There's guys that shit their pants and are standing there talking to you after they've shit their pants. Like they didn't run home. They just stood there. That's what I'm trying to, I don't want the audience to think we're like this elitist, arrogant, thinking we're better than
everyone. It would blow these people's minds to be in a room.
It's like hanging out at a homeless shelter. And it literally is. And because everybody's poor at that point, and and there's a lot of mental disabilities and that are going on. And so it's not like if you and I were pursuing baseball and we were in the minor leagues, we'd be around a bunch of fucking studs.
Yes.
Or if we got a job on Wall Street, an internship or a first year job on a trading floor, you're working amongst college graduates who, they may have their flaws in different things, but for the most part, you're looking at people that are very functional. When you get into stand-up comedy, you're amongst in the beginning, the most dysfunctional people in the world, and you have to navigate that world of, like we said, as much as you can try to not associate with them, you can't get away from them.
100%. And I still see them, occasionally, and it makes me really sad.
Yeah. Well, I do too. It doesn't fucking end, and you will always have a relationship with them because you started with them where, and you have a sympathy for them, and you want to you're like, well, now's my chance that I can help this guy out. But it's like, it's like feeding a stray cat. You feed it, and then all of a sudden it's on your doorstep every fucking day. And that's how you get a guy like Jason Hour, who was on my podcast for 10 years. Now, I love Jason. I just like to rip on him. But that's the way it is. We've talked a lot more comedy than we have fitness. I apologize to fitness buffs that we'll get that in the comments. They're going to go, whoa, what the fuck, man? I got on this show to talk about CrossFit, and you guys talked about Joan Rivers.
Hey, I'm happy to talk about exclusively fitness if you want to do it again.
Yeah, this was more fun for me. I get tired of talking about fitness.
Too.
So I hope maybe we enlighten some people out there, and they got a little out of their fitness world and into some of what else I do. Usually when I talk to fit people on this show, like athletes, and what I try to do is get the shit out of them that's not about fitness. I want to know, what else do they do, their job. So I think this is more of an entertainment show than it is a fitness show. If somebody's got, if you were a scientist that was going to tell me about genetic coding that was going to make my box jumps higher, then I would talk to you about that. But look, you're a douchebag like me that tells jokes and hurts themselves on a regular basis. So, it was awesome talking to you. I appreciate you doing the show. If anybody wants to see your comedy, where would they go?
Go to Ben Herwitz Comedian on Instagram.
How do you spell that?
Herwitz is spelled Herwitz.
If it was HUR, you'd be a lot richer.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone who spells it like me.
Oh, really?
In the entire world. It's a rare. They fucked it up at Ellis Island.
That's good. My family too. Mine was.
Okay.
People always say to me, "What was it before?" And I said Hitler.
Yeah, I have one of those names because it's either O or U. Generally, it's never E.
Mine was IST, and they changed it to IFFT.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense.
That's
and
good,
also, sorry, I I have a podcast that I do weekly live on YouTube, but you can find that through my Instagram. And also I have a show called Honest Therapy that's coming out through Seven Eckies Productions. That'll be on YouTube.
Say that again. Say that again, because it came through a little weird.
Oh yeah, no problem. So I have a show called Honest Therapy that's going to come out in the next month or two. And that's with the guys who produce Bad Friends and Tiger Belly, Bobby Lee's podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll promote everything on my Instagram.
Well, I appreciate you doing it. It was very interesting talking to you. Could talk for hours. This is the longest show I've done in a long time. So hope everybody enjoys it. And hope I run into you and get to work with you sometime. And maybe we can work out sometime. That
sounds good.
Sounds
good, man.
Sounds
Thanks
gay.
for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Nice meeting you, dude.
You too.